The field would get so muddy. Like, think about Municipal Stadium, how many games you saw in the snow or just the mud. Where you're just thinking, how is anybody gripping the ball? How is anybody kicking the ball? How are they catching the ball? Yeah.
How are they running in the mud?
And so it affected what plays you could call. You just couldn't run the plays that you would normally run. That game in the snow, I think Steve McNair threw 6 or 7 passes, and then I think Eddie George must have carried the ball about 40 times and just kept running and running because they just they got ahead and they just sat on the ball the whole game because Cleveland just couldn't run any plays. They weren't very good.
Nope. Which does look, I am pro. I've already I've put this on the record on the show. Like, I don't even think it should be allowed to build open air. Like, to me, like, you don't give people excuses to stay home. Everything should be roofed, retractable roof or just roofed, and you never have. Although last night there was a delay with the roof.
Yeah,
there was
interesting.
There was.
I didn't realize
it actually allowed me to watch a little bit more of the game than I thought of, and I was kind of sad because our guys fell short. We had Justin Herbert.
I know,
and he had a great first half. He put us ahead in our game in our fantasy league against Spartan Eric, only to see Darren Waller go nuts in the second half.
Boy, did he ever.
And we lost by 2 because the Chargers, they didn't have to throw down the stretch. I was like, please, somewhere give me a pass. We need a pass.
I know.
They didn't pass. But the Chargers look good.
But those conditions, we should factor that in. Like, we're not in those Hall of Fame discussions, but how much do you weigh the fact that basically they all played in open air and in the elements and crap, November, December, which skewed the stats tremendously, whether it was a blizzard, whether it was 40 below, whether it was in mud, whether it was a pouring down rain. Like, today, all these state-of-the-art facilities are all enclosed. They're turf. There's no elements in the way. Basically, most of the games today are played like the Super Bowl, right? Conditions are perfect.
Yeah. Some people
so that
though.
affects the stats.
But don't some people like the elements in football? Like those games in Buffalo and
I
back
don't,
in the day in Minnesota.
Do some people? Sure. I don't. I mean,
Green Bay.
But I'm thinking from a business side of things, Willie. I'm thinking, how do you have the most butts in the seats? And you don't give them an excuse not to show up. Now, some of those places like Buffalo and Green Bay, they don't care.
I know.
They're just
and Soldier Field in Chicago, they come out there. That's what I love about it.
But that does affect the stats. And you think about the guys that had to play in the elements and maybe what their numbers would look like if they played indoors. What if, Peyton Manning and Drew Brees got to play all their home games indoors, right, for the most part. Drew Brees spent a little bit at the beginning of his career outdoors. Peyton Manning spent a little bit at the end of his career outdoors, but the bulk of their careers were indoors. Tom Brady's had to do it outdoors in crappy weather in November, December. Did you see Foxborough Sunday night? It's the beginning of October.
Oh, yeah.
Wait for a month or two from now.
Thank goodness they went to the turf because for a while they had the grass, and that was one of the rougher fields.
I was trying to remember. So when they first opened that place in 02 or 03, whatever it was, because remember Brady's first year, that first run, they were at Old Foxborough before they opened Gillette. So it was grass when they first opened it?
In Foxborough?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Definitely.
I thought it was
they had some rough-looking fields.
It was brutal.
They could not keep the grass.
Which is, understandable. I mean,
when the Titans played there for the –
it was grass.
It was grass.
Grass, big time.
Now, that was more of a frozen turf.
Yeah. It wasn't really grass. It was frozen.
It was just completely frozen. It wasn't really that muddy.
Mud, grass, sod, whatever. Whatever it was frozen. It was 40 below with the wind chill.
Oh, man, that was rough.
But don't you think this should be taken into account? Like, guys today that have these unbelievable – like, how come that's never really discussed, guys that got to play indoors for a bulk of their careers as opposed to guys who had to play outdoors?
I do think that –
I think it's a really good point.
thing to look at in terms of just some of the stats, yards, kicking especially. Man, you ought to be much more accurate inside.
Doesn't it push Vinatieri even further up?
Oh, no
right?
doubt. No doubt about it.
I mean,
especially the first part of his career. And then he played in the Dome.
I mean, Morton Anderson got to do a lot from indoors, no elements, right?
Yeah. Well, Vinatieri actually spent more time in Indy than he did New England, so.
Did he really?
Yeah.
But he made a ton of big kicks.
He spent more time with the Colts than the Patriots?
Yeah.
A ton of big kicks outside, though. Yeah, he did. He did spend more
that's
time
crazy.
in Indy.
I mean, how would you? He's a kicker, obviously, so he's doing his own thing. But he can say that he played with the greatest quarterback ever and one of the greatest quarterbacks ever in his career. Like, that's pretty amazing to be able to go through that stretch and play with Manning and Brady.
Yeah, there's not too many people.
And Luck. I mean, Luck. Luck.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not going to put Luck in the greatest of all time just because he didn't play that long, but he was pretty good when he played. So, I mean, he had that. But
maybe the Titans should bring Vinatieri out of retirement and have him kick. Maybe that'll vault Tannehill. I mean, it seems like wherever Vinatieri is, they've got a great quarterback. I mean, that's pretty amazing. What you just real. I mean, that's 2+ decades of playing, and it was with Brady, Peyton, and Luck.
Yeah,
not bad.
I mean, let's see. He started kicking in New England in '96, so that would have been. Was that Bledsoe?
Yeah.
So he had Bledsoe, and then Brady takes over in 01. And so he has, and that was in his 6th year, Vinatieri's 6th year. And then he leaves there, goes to Indy in 06, and then finally retires in 19 at 47 years old.
And it faded, obviously, at the end.
Sure.
He was at a high level for a very, very, very long time. And I know some people like Derek Mason, who used to have fun with, kickers' lives matter too. Derek doesn't believe the kickers' lives matter, but they do. That is a position that's paid in the NFL. If there's anybody that ever should be put in right away as a kicker, and I know it's very, very hard to get in as a kicker. I mean, Adam Vinatieri, like, to me, is there really a discussion about him and Canton? Like, there is no discussion. Like, don't say, well, he's a kicker. Oh, he needs to wait because he's a kicker. No. It's a position that's paid. It's a position that wins you games and loses you games. He was the best that's ever done it. Put him in the Hall of Fame, period.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
We're unanimous on that.
Who's is Ray Guy's a punter, right?
Yep.
So he's in, but is there a true
one punter and 2 kickers?
But like true kickers, like that's all they did. I know Blanda's in as both quarterback and kicker, but he obviously was a quarterback.
Didn't one recently get in as a true kicker?
Oh yeah,
is John Stenerud in?
No, one of the Andersons.
I think
Morton.
I thought it was Morton. I thought Morton got in.
I think Morton got in. I think you're right.
I thought one of the true kickers just got in.
Well, let's see. You can go by position.
Morton Anderson, Jan Stenerud is in.
He's in?
Yeah, those 2 are in, plus Blanda and Ray Guy.
And Ray Guy.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, there should be more. Like, there really should. I mean, I know.
It's so tough in football. There's so many positions.
I know. But Vinatieri, to me, is a no-brainer and should be in. And you can make arguments for others, like Gary Anderson. I think you can make an argument for. Kicked a long time.
I agree.
Then it starts to become hard to separate. Stenerud was, if you look at his actual stats, they don't really look all that great. But at the time, he was a breakthrough with the soccer style, which of course you would never think of doing it any other way now. But back then, he was like the only guy. He was one of the first to really do it, and he was so good at it. I think that's as much the reason he's in there as anything else.
Yep.
We should add one more. Lou the Toe Groza, who was not just a kicker, he was a tackle as well. See, that's what the kicking position used to be. An offensive tackle used to kick the extra points.
But Morton Anderson and Jan Stenerud are the only true kickers, and that's all they did.
Yeah, that needs to change.
I agree.
We'll have Bernard Pollard join us to start the second hour of the show. We'll have him assess the Titans' defense. Speaking of the Titans, they go to Jacksonville next. Is there a distraction going on in Jacksonville? We'll discuss on the other side as Urban Meyer did his very, very, very uncomfortable press conference yesterday that was just Urban-esque. It was extremely awkward. We'll discuss on the other side as you listen to the DDC here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
All right, let's start it off by telling you about Lee Company. And, of course, when the seasons get going in October, that's when you really start hearing the message from me. And it's perfect because as the leaves start changing, it's a great reminder for all of you that you're going to start using your heating unit very soon. And if you haven't had it checked in a while, if you haven't had it checked since last year, it's always a good idea to do it before you need it. And that's where Lee Company can come in. Lee Company can come in and check that heating unit, make sure it's going to be running properly, efficiently for you all winter long. And that's just the tip of the iceberg at Lee Company because they have something called the home maintenance plan. And that is a subscription you have every year where they not only check your heating unit, your cooling unit every year, the plumbing and electrical systems as well. They'll come in and make the check. You'll feel better about how everything's running. And if there are some recommendations for repairs, you get discounts on those repairs. That's the home maintenance plan. It's a great plan. It works for us. We have used it now for a long, long time in our household. Here's how you get in touch with Lee Company. 615-567-1000. That's 615-567-1000. Or go to leecompany.com and take a look at all the great services they had. But in October, it's a great reminder for you. Get that heating unit checked with Lee Company. Stay tuned. We've got more coming here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase.
He's sorry. He's so sorry.
Wait a minute.
Don't grind so close to me, okay?
Tried to pull me out on the dance floor.
Don't grind so close to me.
There are two things that immediately I hear or that stand out to me in that. One, went to see the grandkids. Okay.
And some people wanted me to take pictures.
And people wanted me to take pictures.
Oh, they took
so
pictures.
Stupid.
And then they tried to pull me out on the dance floor. Urban. They weren't trying to pull you on the dance floor. She was grinding on you.
She was grinding you. Like, give us a break, dude.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll tell you what. How uncomfortable was it watching him? Did he even look up?
No.
He was looking down the whole time. Never made eye contact with anybody. It is so Urban Meyer. And I laugh because anybody who's ever listened to this show over the years knows how I feel about Urban Meyer. I've been around the man when there's not cameras on him. I've never rooted for him. I've always said he's a tremendous football coach. The man can coach football, at least in college. We haven't been able to see it so far translate to the NFL. But he can coach in college. But as a human being, I do not root for that guy. He's a miserable human being.
Yeah.
I've been around him when cameras aren't around and when people aren't around reporting on stuff. He's a miserable human being. Okay, I've never, ever rooted for him, and you've picked up on that over the years because I haven't hit it. And I'm not surprised at all. And I would say to the Jags, by the way, reading this quote this morning, this statement from Shad Khan, the Jags owner, I have addressed this matter with Urban. Specifics of our conversation will be held in confidence. What I will say is his conduct last weekend was inexcusable. I appreciate Urban's remorse, which I believe is sincere. Now he must regain our trust and respect. That will require a personal commitment from Urban to everyone who supports and represents our plays for our team. I am confident he will deliver. Give me a break.
Can I respond to that real quick?
If you didn't know what you were getting to with Urban Meyer, like, God, eye roll. Stop it.
You know what I say to that? That's what I say.
I mean, give me a break. Did you really not know what you were getting with Urban Meyer? If they were 4-0, hey, if they're 4-0, you think that statement comes out?
No.
No, it doesn't come out. They're 0-4, and there's already reports out that there's been a lot of closed-door meetings about Urban.
And they're not about the Titans.
It's not about the Titans.
I know. They're not going to fire him.
Stop it. They're not. They're not going to fire him. But here's what I did see this from Dan Orlovsky, and I don't know how you guys feel about Dan Orlovsky. I think he does a good job. I think he's kind of morphed into this I don't know, this role that he's in.
He kind of
he's
caricature, kind of
like,
over the top.
I don't know how to describe. Yeah, I guess he's
kind of playing the heel role or trying to.
Yes.
Yeah,
and I don't think.
But he kind of goes back and
natural.
forth. I don't know. It's like wrestling. Chase, you understand this, especially off the heels of going to one. He's a good guy, bad guy, and then I want to be the good guy, and then wait a minute, I'm going to put a mask on. I'm going to be the bad guy. It's like, make up your mind, Dan. What are you? But, he said, these players shouldn't even want to – they won't even want to play for him. And I'm like, Dan, give me a break. You think the Jags players, all they care about is when does my direct deposit hit the bank? You think they care about if their head coach has a blonde grinding up against him in Columbus, Ohio at a restaurant or a bar? Give me a break. Those players don't care. They could care less what their coach is doing.
Sadly, some of them are probably like, all right, get it, coach.
He might have earned their respect.
Yeah. But
it's like, Dan, just stop it. Like the players won't respect him. They won't want to play for him. It's like, stop it.
I think that you've heard all these reports about that he's already like things aren't great. The players don't. There are some of the older players that don't like him and think that he's too much of a tyrant and all that stuff. But so if they don't want to play for him because of that, then that's one thing.
Right.
But what happened this weekend, while I don't condone it, he shouldn't have been doing it. It was wrong. That's not going to decide if they want to play for him or not.
Because the bottom line is, and I think people that follow sports and cover teams, they understand, and it's unfortunate. And it's really society. It's not just sometimes the athletes and the coaches get labeled even more so. But I think the bottom line is that in that arena, Urban Meyer's not the only guy that could on a given night be caught doing something.
Oh, you don't think so?
That looks bad. That's married. I mean, it happens. So it's like a player. Maybe some players would say, "Hey, man, that's you can't do that stuff, man."
Yeah.
Other players are like, "Yeah, that could have been me a couple weeks ago."
Right.
I mean, they know who they are.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's accepted, but it does happen a lot. We know that it's reality. So this is under the category of dumb stuff that nobody videos. Hey, non-story. Dumb stuff that somebody videos, problem.
You guys help me with this.
Dumb stuff.
Urban's not a dumb guy. No matter what I think of him, he's not a dumb guy. He's a smart guy. You're Urban Meyer. You're in Columbus, Ohio, at your restaurant. It's got your name on the restaurant.
You're not alone in the restaurant.
Why on, like, first of all, doesn't he have, like, a JAG security guy with him? Like, Urban Meyer isn't rogue and on his own, right? Don't they have a security guy that's going to be with him at all times, right?
Most likely.
Okay. Even if they don't. Okay, let's just say that they don't have a security guy, which that is kind of odd to me, but let's just say that he is truly by himself. You're Urban Meyer in Columbus, Ohio, at your restaurant, and you've got a blonde that's not your wife, a young blonde, who's grinding up against you, and you don't think for a minute that, everybody in the place knows it's you, and two, there's not phones out recording, either taking pictures or videoing it? Like that. The only thing I can think of is, because he is a smart guy, was he a little bit, a little threw back a couple and just wasn't thinking straight? Because I can't imagine a guy with his intelligence level that doesn't have a drink in him that's sitting there going, yeah, nobody will see this. Like, how is that possible in 2021? How? Like, you don't think for a minute, the whole place doesn't know it's you? And that's going on and somebody's not snapping a photo or taking a video of it? It's like, you got to be kidding me, Herb. Come on, man.
I think it's pretty clear. He let his guard down. He said he went to dinner earlier in the night, so you would guess that this probably took place well after midnight, probably had several drinks in him, probably wasn't thinking at all.
I just thought it was hilarious.
But the question I would have if I were his wife or his family is this a routine kind of thing? How often does this happen? That's what we'll never know. It's not any of our business, but you get the feeling that wasn't. Is that the first time he's ever done anything like that?
Well,
I don't know.
Come on.
And here's the other part. Again, not condoning anything or making excuses, but his family that he's apologizing to, you think they don't know what's going on?
Well, you hear that a lot, that the family usually many times does kind of new. But the other thing is, when you embarrass the family like that publicly, there's some.
Chase, how many times have you heard me say the Warren Sapp thing, the Warren Sapp example? You think that's the first time?
Right.
You think that's the first? So you think this is the first time?
No.
I mean, really?
No.
The guy who gets busted for soliciting prostitute, you really think that's the first time they made the decision that day for the first time in their life to do that? Really? And they got caught? Really? You think that was the first time that had ever happened? Maybe the first time his video went viral, sure. You think that's the first time that's ever happened?
He got caught publicly.
Seems like a stretch.
Right.
Seems like a bit of a stretch. Here's the part. Elijah, play the beginning part again. This is another thing that jumped at me when I was watching this yesterday. Just play it again, and then we'll cut it off on that. Do you have the urban stuff again? Real quick. I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I just apologize to the team and staff and for being a distraction, just stupid. And so I explained everything that happened and owned it, and just stupid. Should not have myself in that kind of position.
Okay, stop right there. You're apologizing for being in a restaurant / bar? Oh, what, Herb? You're a grown ass man. You can do whatever you want. You're in your 50s. What do you mean? You're apologizing for going out? Last time I checked, it is perfectly legal to do that. Even as a head coach in the NFL, you're allowed to go out. What are you apologizing for? You're apologizing for being in a bar? You're apologizing for going out? You're apologizing for being in a restaurant?
He is, but this is, if you watch the video, there's a little extra something going on there.
That's my
that
point,
you can't
Willie.
just
It's
blow
like,
off.
this just in. You're allowed to go out, but you're apologizing because you weren't at a bar minding your own business, having a drink at the bar with, your buddies or your family. You clearly were at the bar having fun, and that's why you're apologizing. You can go out. There's no reason for or there's never a reason to apologize for going out. You can go out and be responsible and go out and have fun and not be a viral video that everybody's talking about.
I did that last night.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that. You're allowed to do that. No matter what profession you're in, you're allowed to do that. Apologizing for being, I don't know what the right word.
Well, it's
He's apologizing for putting his family in an awkward spot.
The video speaks for itself, but
think about his family right now. He's put them in a bad spot because now what? You think they want to be out in public? You think they want to be on social media? Anybody with the last name Meyer? Nope. Thanks, Herb. Thanks, Dad.
Right. Because they're going to get asked about it and have to deal with that over and over and over.
Right.
Then the video is out there forever.
Forever. It does not go away.
So here's the question.
Even though somebody tried with Facebook.
I don't buy all this distraction stuff because, honestly, I don't think anybody really cares. I think the Jags are trying to put on a nice public front. But, I mean, around the league, are you kidding me? Coaches, players, owners, all the stories we've heard over the years of all the stuff. I mean, the Patriots just hosted Sunday Night Football. Robert Kraft, do we remember of anything that went on in Florida? Let's see, he was on video, right? I mean, I know we haven't seen the video.
He was on video walking in. I mean, it wasn't like.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff on.
Yeah.
I get it. It's all been, quieted down and brushed on, and probably a lot of money has been exchanged, and he has high-powered attorneys. I get it. But of all the stuff we read and hear about in the NFL, this is, I don't personally like Urban Meyer, and I'm not glad this happened to him, but to me, I just say it couldn't happen to a better person because my time around him, I don't root for him. So I'm just like, of course that happened to him. But I mean, I'm not happy that it happened, but of all the stuff that goes on in the league, is this really up there top of the list of oh my gosh, he had a young blonde grinding on him in a bar. We've never heard that in the NFL. Nope. Or maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times worse. Maybe players punching women or soliciting prostitution or DUIs. Oh, by the way, May of the Jets, DUI, that came out yesterday, back in February. Now he may be in trouble with the league. So not only is he hurt, he may be dealing with some personal conduct issues by the league. He's arguably one of their best players on defense.
Now, I am curious on that. I mean, the league is, they like to be all about the personal conduct and the image of the league. I mean, are they going to have anything to say about this? I mean, I get it. He had it's morally wrong because he's a married man, but we're talking about grand scheme of things and distracting the team. But if the NFL is going to stand behind these things that they have put forward, and they're going to punish players for things. I mean, they came down on Kraft for it. I mean, did they not find Kraft for his deal? So I mean, I wonder if the league will do something. I don't think it's suspension or anything, but
I don't want to get too graphic into the specifics of the video, but there are some actions by him that you could. I mean, it's one thing to be there with another woman to start with, but what he's doing there, the grind. I don't know what word. I don't want to use the wrong word here, but I think some people have been fined for similar stuff. Remember Ezekiel Elliott on on whatever float he was on. I forget where he was. Yeah. I mean he got suspended.
Yep.
And I don't think that was the only.
Was he suspended?
He was suspended.
I thought he did. He not get a game or two?
Didn't he get a game or two?
I thought he just got
And I don't know if
fined.
it was just for that one thing, but that video that came out,
Because that was before he got drafted, right? It was like right before the draft, but it came out
I thought
after.
it was after. I thought it was his rookie year. No.
Yeah, but it was. But I think that incident. Hang on, I'm pulling it up. As my phone rings. Sorry.
somebody calling you to give you somebody from Dallas, one of your
Yeah.
Cowboy
maybe it's
fan
somebody
buddies.
from Dallas.
He's talking about the Cowboys.
He's talking about the Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Let me tell you what happened to Zeke.
Let's give him the scoop.
Let's look this up because there were penalties, and I
Remember
think you could make an argument that what Ezekiel Elliott did in broad daylight, he groped, for lack of a better term, to keep it simple. Was there not a grope in the video for Urban Meyer? I think you could say
Well,
there's got to be
no
a
video.
grope.
The idiot video speaks for itself.
That's what I'm saying.
Just go
You're
watch
right.
it.
It was. Well, okay. He was suspended 6 games because of that was a domestic violence thing in
So
2017.
Was that separate than?
Well,
what
I'm
we're
trying
talking
to read. I can't remember.
There have been a couple.
It was
incidents.
reduced, or it was put on hold. There was an injunction. So I don't know if he actually ever served it.
Oh, he definitely said I had him on my fantasy team. I think
he
that
did.
year.
Okay, there you go. 6 games. Yep, in 2017.
But I don't know if it was. I don't think it was just for the one.
No,
thing.
there was something
I'm thinking of a
else.
piece of video though that it was definitely punished by the league, and this isn't that different.
No.
Wasn't there a Lions coach that went through the drive-through naked? You're laughing. Look that up. I'm telling you. I'm almost positive. I remember this was in the last, 5 years. Wasn't there a Lions coach that went through the drive-through of a fast food joint and he was totally
Joe
naked?
Cullen. Is that it? Yeah, Joe Cullen.
Right?
Yep.
What happened to him?
This one I have no idea
I
what you're
don't
talking
remember.
about.
You don't remember that one?
No, I do
Was
not.
it like
Oh,
Apparently,
2006?
are you saying he was
12
suspended?
years ago.
Yeah.
Was that 12 years ago? Wow.
And he was
At least
suspended?
The story on Nesson was from 12 years ago, and the headline says ex-Lions assistant coach Joe Cullen blames naked trip to Wendy's on a blackout.
A blackout. What?
So you're saying he got fired?
I think he did. Yes, I think he did.
Okay.
I think they got public shamed, and he was fired.
Well, you got me thinking, though. I do wonder if there will be a league punishment of some kind or a team punishment. If you're Urban Meyer, you'd almost want to get punished, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want to just have this be blown off and just
There's
move
people
forward.
out there that are already throwing out that he's trying to get fired, which I don't put anything past Urban Meyer.
trying to get
Guaranteed
fired.
money.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed money. He's bouncing. It's his escape out of the NFL, and guess what? There's a nice big college
we're going.
football job
Yeah.
opening.
Now we're
Here we
going
go.
conspiracy theory.
But would you put it past
with
him?
Urban Meyer? Do you really put anything past him? I don't.
I mean, he looks miserable with, because he hates losing and all those
But to
things.
be honest, though, he always looks miserable. Chase, I mean,
true. I
he's
do
a
worry about his
miserable
heart.
human being. He really is. It doesn't matter if he's winning or losing. He's a miserable human being. He just is. He always looks like that. Do you ever see him happy?
No.
Okay.
I'm debating if I should read this text on the air or not. But it's pretty funny. When in doubt, maybe not.
Well, I'm not seeing it, so that's in your lap.
He needs to listen to himself. This is from Keith. He needs to listen to himself instead of Oscar Mayer.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll come back, and we got into this in NFL Singers. Damn you, Chase. We got into this yesterday in the final hour, and Keith. The Ravens-Broncos ending to the game. We're going to ask Bernard Pollard at 11 o'clock what he thinks about that. He used to play for the Ravens, and as a former player, although he was on the other side of the ball. What do you guys make? And now Fangio and Harbaugh going at each other in press conferences. I loved it. Yesterday, those two just exchanging I mean, barbs, one after the other. It was pretty good. We'll get into that to close out the first hour of Darren, Daunic, and Chase. ESPN 102.5 The Game. Remember, you can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, presented by Creation CBD. Creation CBD. Products curated for life. Nice exchange between Vic Fangio, head coach of the Broncos, and John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Ravens, yesterday in their pressers. Of course, we had that in NFL Zingers. I was watching the end of that game going, what the heck is going on? So the Broncos it's 23-7. And remember, Teddy Bridgewater has been knocked out early in the game. He was knocked out in the first quarter. So Drew locked the rest of the way, and he did not look good. He throws an interception in the end zone at the end of the game. So there's like 7 seconds left. And the Ravens take over on downs, right? It's in the back of the end zone. Spot the ball at the 20. Game over. It's 23-7. Here come the Ravens offense. Not in victory formation. Lamar Jackson in the shotgun. And I was like, what in the world is going on? they snap it. I was like, they're not going to really do this. They snap it to Lamar Jackson. Off to the left side he goes. Everybody following him, creating some space. He gets 5 yards, slides, jumps back up, hands the ball to the ref, and off to the locker room he goes. Game over. And it was like, what just happened? Oh, the Ravens were trying to keep a rushing streak alive, a team rushing streak alive, which they currently held in the NFL. And by picking up those extra yards, because they were 2 yards shy going into that last play of the game, they needed 2 more yards to get 100 yards rushing as a team. They had done that 42 straight games.
Yep.
And by doing that, it's now 43.
And they've tied the Steelers. Who hold the record from the team in the 70s, in the mid-70s. 74 to 77, I think, is the years that they did that. The heyday.
Yeah, no doubt. Franco Harris, man. Rocky Blyer. And so now they are tied with the Steelers for an NFL record, 43 straight games of 100 or more yards rushing as a team. And now they'll try to break that record this coming week. What do you guys make of that? Because Vic Fangio, which one? Elijah said I asked him to get a which one do you have? Do you have Harbaugh or Fangio?
This is Fangio when asked
about.
Is
there a beep in there?
Yeah, I just had FCC prove it.
I was going to say there's got to be a beep.
It has been listened to for quality. So
if you watch the footage, Fangio is telling his defense, get up on the line. They're going to run it. He knew exactly what the Ravens were going to do. Here's what Fangio said yesterday.
Did you have a problem with the last play that Baltimore ran?
Yeah, I thought it was kind of both, but I expected it from them. I've 37 years in pro ball. I've never seen anything like that. So, but it was to be expected, and we expected it.
Why did you expect it from them?
Because I just know how they operate. That's just their, mode of operation there. Player safety is secondary.
Is that something anybody even really talked about, that they had 42 straight or whatever the number was, 100-yard games? And
we didn't talk about it during the week, but I'm sure the players were aware of it. You guys made them well aware of it.
Typical.
Like I said, if you watched him,
old school,
he was telling his defense to get up on the line, get up there. They're going to run a play, and they weren't paying attention. They were just kind of going through the motions. They just thought that the Ravens were going to, in the game, take a knee. And so that's why it looked so easy picking up those 5 yards. But to Fangio's credit, he did know he was trying to get the attention of his defense. So what do you guys make of that? Because John Harbaugh fired back when told what Fangio said and said, okay, so here's what John Harbaugh had to say.
We didn't expect to get the ball back, but we decided that if we got the ball back, we were going to try to get the yards. And we got it back with 3 seconds left. So you're throwing the ball in the end zone with 10 seconds left. I don't know that there's a 16-point touchdown that's going to be possible right there. So, that didn't have anything to do with winning the game. So, like I said, what's meaningful to us might not be meaningful to them, and we're not going to concern ourselves with that.
Okay, but it comes down to a file that you can put together in all sports, and that is getting a record where you're close, but it's not the real circumstances of a game. Remember, probably the most famous one is when Brett Favre let Michael Strahan sack him to get the season record.
Yeah.
He just let him do it.
Well, is that a fact, or is that your opinion?
Just look at the
Is
tape.
that allegedly?
Tape doesn't lie.
That's allegedly.
I guess I would say you would have to say allegedly, but the tape doesn't lie. But there's a lot of things like that happen, and so going for like the ethical decision is going for the.
I know. I'm just having fun.
Going for the record under those circumstances, is that ethical or not? That's the debate.
Yeah.
That you could have. Now, on the Monday Night Football broadcast last night, I happened to hear them bring this up. They didn't have a problem with it. For offensive linemen, for historical purposes, they said, why not?
Right.
I'll remember a furious, it wasn't for a record, but Peter Sermon used to do a radio show on the station we worked for, Darren, and the Titans were in that down period where they cut everybody, they had to reshuffle, and it was during the height of Peyton Manning. The Colts were way better than the Titans. Peyton Manning pulled a stunt at the end of a half where they lined up as if they were going to kneel on the ball to end the half, and then tried a little tomfoolery, trickeration, and ran a play. And Peter Sermon was furious and just called him out on the show the next day saying, that's not ethical. When you're lining up to kneel on the ball, you're telling everybody, we're kneeling on the ball, we are conceding this play, and unless you want us to slam your center in the face, and play for real, then we're conceding. In his mind, we're conceding that that's a dead play. That this is what we're doing. Just like when Greg Schiano took heat. Remember, he became an NFL coach.
Oh yeah,
and he tried they tried to contest the kneel down at the end of the game.
Yep,
and he took all kinds of heat for that. So these are all like ethical things that come up in a game. What's the unwritten rule?
Yeah.
What's the code of conduct? What's the code of conduct there? And I do think this is on the borderline of code of conduct violation.
Yeah, I mean,
at the end of a game like that. I would have loved for Justin Herbert to throw a couple more passes last night because of my fantasy team, Chase and I representing McDonough's Biscuits, we needed 3 points. Like one more long pass to the right guy, we would have won.
Well, and here's the bigger picture with this. So number one, I mean, they're professional athletes, so if you don't like it, make a play, make a stop. That's the counter argument. That's kind of how I look at it.
And there's a little bit what goes around comes around.
Sure. They won't forget that. But here's the other part of it. The other part of it is we're in a new era now, where gambling is, is prominent and it's not taboo anymore.
Yeah,
and so
that's why Bad Beats has risen to the level.
Bad Beats is where it's at. I mean,
it's a little light yet last night. I was surprised.
Yeah. But I think they have to be careful with things like that, because especially if it comes across of, they know what the spread is, or they know that the over under, and or yards for a player or whatever. I mean, and if it comes across, whether it's true or not, if it comes across that they're trying to manipulate the outcome of the game because of a potential wager that, somewhere. I mean, they got to be careful with that. Those type of ethics.
Break loose. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, John Harbaugh, he doesn't care about how Fangio feels. He doesn't care about how the Broncos feels. He just cares about. He is portraying that he cares about his players. Right. He's saying, I'm looking out for you. This record's important. Let's keep the streak alive. We've got a chance next week to break the NFL record. I'm doing this for you guys. That's what he's doing. Now, I don't know if it actually works. I don't know if in a locker room they're like, man, that's my coach. Where's T.O. when we need him? That's my coach you're talking about. That's my head coach. That's my head coach you were talking about. I don't know if they do that. I don't know if they get teary-eyed with John Harbaugh that he's up there, thinking about them. But, John Harbaugh's been a head coach for a long time in this league and had a ton of success, so he kind of knows what he's doing. And so if he's just trying to better his room, I guess I don't have an issue with it.
I guess
because what a lot of players will tell you, and I've already heard this on the national platforms because ESPN trots out all the formers, and they're like, if you don't like it as a player, then stop it. Because we always hear that, right? If you don't like it, you don't like somebody run up the score on them, then stop them.
But this isn't that, really.
I know.
This isn't even
that's
that.
what they were saying.
Stop them?
If you don't want them to break the record,
over.
Get up on the line.
They're up by 16 points. It's over.
Well, I'll tell you where this would have just gotten. I mean, and it could happen. Like, don't think that this stuff can't. If Lamar Jackson gets banged up on that play, holy crap.
Well, yeah, now that's the extreme.
So
that's under the stop them. Okay, well, we stopped him. We piled on, and we took it out on him. We got a personal foul at the end.
Right.
You could fight fire with fire like that. You think, okay, that's how brawls start back in the day when there was more brawls in baseball. You do something that is viewed as unethical, there's a retaliation, and then it escalates.
Absolutely.
Now, let me ask you guys this question. You are the Ravens, and so they had 97 yards or something like, I don't know. They needed, how many yards they need to get?
2 yards.
They needed 2 yards. Okay. You get the record because of that. Do you feel like you really earned the record?
No. Yeah. I mean,
I guess.
Because you did.
I mean, you did.
Yeah. You ran a play.
There's not going to be any asterisk next to it.
No.
I am curious.
But people are going to remember this.
Yeah. I want to hear Bernard's response because he's a
defensive player,
and he played for the Ravens. Yep. He played for John Harbaugh, so I'm curious.
Yep, we'll talk with Bernard Pollard to start the second hour. Darren, Daunic, and Chase. That's next. Second hour, Darren, Daunic, and Chase here on this Tuesday. Darren McFarland, Willie Daunic, Chase McCabe with you. Elijah Campbell manning things at our game studios. Our show is brought to you by and presented by Creation CBD. Creation CBD, products curated for life. We always enjoy our chats with our next guest. And, boy, we're going to pick his brain today. Bernard Pollard is on the line with us. Former Titan, former Raven. And before we get to that, Bernard, just because the last couple of times we've had you on, besides just talking about the pigskin, we've talked about your new love for racing. And, of course, we know what you did here, the Nashville Superspeedway in June. What did it mean to you yesterday as a new race fan to see Bubba Wallace win his first ever cup race at Talladega yesterday?
Dude, first and foremost, thank you guys for having me. I think, when you look at Bubba winning his first race, it was awesome to be able to see the excitement, from him and his team. How hard he's worked. Obviously going to a new team with Jordan, the 23. But dude, it was exciting for me. It was super exciting for me to be able to witness that for a guy that had worked his butt off to get his first win in the Cup Series. That was just awesome.
Yeah, and to think about it, and he even talked about this yesterday because he did his rounds, and it's what you do when you're a headline story. And he talked about, all the adversity and some of the crap that he's had to deal with. It's well documented, the story that came out, in the garage last year, him having to deal with that. And, to get through all that and to power through all that, that, trying to make it in the NFL, man, it's no joke. Some of the mind games and stuff you have to deal with just within yourself, right? Just to get up to play or do something at the highest level in the world, which is what the sport he's in. And to overcome that and to get a win yesterday, it must have felt like, 5 wins to him.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you on that one. And I mean, I don't know if we can put ourselves in his shoes because it's very difficult. As a driver, I've heard stories from black drivers who they're trying to get in motocross and all these other different places. And you have a small percentage of people that, they say things, they do things to try to make you feel uncomfortable, to make you run away, to make you stay away from the sport. But I think the way he has persevered and just continue to continue to fight his way through this in his career, and then to finally get a win. I know all of those emotions came back up, and I mean, just encouraging young people, young brown and black people who look like him, and others to just continue to fight the good fight and go, no matter what obstacles are in your way. Face the adversity head on and just continue to grind, and it'll pay off.
We're dying to get your reaction to something we just talked about the last 15 minutes of the last hour. One of the storylines in the NFL was the Ravens and Broncos finish to their game. Ravens win 23-7, and you're like, what headlines could come out of that? They cruise to a victory in Denver. I happened to be watching. I told these guys I was watching the Red Zone channel, and they happened to go to it at the end of the game. Drew Lock throws an interception in the end zone. And essentially, that's the end of the game. And for some reason, they didn't cut away. And so I was watching it live, and I told Willie and Chase, I'm like, I was sitting there going, what are they doing? Like, why is Lamar Jackson in a shotgun? I didn't know what was going on. Obviously, we have found out everything that was going on. They were keeping a streak alive in 43 games. A record now ties the Steelers. They can break it this week. As a player, let's just start with as a player on the other side, okay? On the defensive side of the ball, like if you were a Broncos player on defense, what would your feelings be today, knowing what you know now and how that all played out?
Well, I think, for me as a defensive player, if you don't like what the offense is doing, you need to do something about it. You need to do something to stop it. And if you can't stop it, then there's no reason to cry about it. But talking out of both ends of my mouth, I think this is what the Baltimore Ravens have done the last 3 or 4 years. They pad stats. They want Lamar to, which he's an exceptional athlete. He has been playing really well. I think when you look at what's going on and the teams that they've played, I mean, they played a couple hard teams, but I think, even with Denver really haven't played a hard football team who's going to come in and play good ball for 4 quarters. And they finally faced one. And then, obviously with the athlete under center with Lamar. But, I think, if you don't like what they're doing, if you can't stop it, don't cry about it. You need to go watch film, figure out how to stop it. And if you face them later on down the line, cool. If not, you gotta just hold it together and keep fighting.
Okay, so since you were a former player and you know all about that Ravens system, well, if you were on that sideline and that happened, knowing what you know, how would you feel? Are you cool with it? Are is that a coach looking out for his team? I don't know. Tell us what's the player mentality for the Ravens? Does Harbaugh get brownie points for it?
Well, I think, you got to look at just the type of football team he's built there. He's got his guys in. And so those guys are all about when they're front runners, when it's good, it's good. But when it's bad, they fall apart. And so, I look at it from a different angle. I think if we're on the sideline, I think if you look at us, our team that was there in Baltimore, we'd have probably been like, hey, man, down the ball, whatever. Don't go send our guy back out there, because you just don't know if you got a head case that's looking like, okay, y'all want to be in shotgun? I'm hurting any and everything that tries to run or pass this ball. So, I know where we would have come from if that was our team. But, once again, this is his team. They chase different things like that. This is teams where they want to gamble, and this is what they built. And, I mean, if you don't like it, you got to be able to stop it. But I think this is today's football. Today's football they have taken the aggression out of the defensive players. This is an offensive game. It's no longer a game like it was 6 or 7 years ago. This is a different football game, and sometimes it's hard to watch because you're just looking like sometimes these defensive players, they go into games losing because it just by rules alone, they're not set up to win.
Bernard, you know what else is hard to watch? Ben Roethlisberger. You went up against him a lot in your playing days. I mean, this dude looks like he's 68 years old. I mean, This has got to be awkward, right? Like Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. And as long as they keep trotting out Big Ben, I think that record's about to get broken, because I don't know how you win, 9 games with that guy. He's a statue. He can't move. He can't throw. I mean, like I said, he looks like he's 68 years old.
It's funny you say that. My son, so I try not to watch a lot. It's hard for me to watch a lot of football, but my son came to me and was just like, Dad, Roethlisberger sucks. And I'm just like, oh, you can't say that. And then I'm just hearing so many people just continue, to say the same thing. And I'm just looking like, what is really going on in Pittsburgh? And, you look at the preseason and I was like, okay, wait a minute. Pittsburgh looks like they're going to, do a little damage this year. They got some things rolling. They changed a little bit up in the offense. But, I mean, from the highlights and things that I've seen, you have to make a decision with him. I don't know if a guy like that can continue to get away with not practicing with the football team and just showing up on Sunday and thinking he's going to be this Superman, under center that's going to be able to put your team in the best position to win football games. I think that time is over for him. So they're going to have to make a decision. Because they got a backup that can throw the football, that can potentially energize this offense and allow them to go be successful. Because the defense can play ball, but it's tough when you're out there watching your offense continually turn the ball over and put you in bad situations. It's hard to play through on a consistent basis, and so. Tom is going to have to make some decisions. I don't know how much Ben Roethlisberger have left in the tank. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but I mean, at the end of it, when we look at it, it's not really looking good. The stuff he's putting on tape just does not look good at all.
Look, if you want to pad your career stats, you need to just go sign with whoever plays the Steelers every week, and you can pad Bernard Pollard's stats if you want to get some sacks on that resume.
No, man, no, they ain't allowing me back in the NFL. I hit you hard.
Bernard Pollard, Crush Boy, is here with us, former NFL safety. And speaking of hard hits, obviously we know your history against the Patriots and Tom Brady, but he makes his return to New England on Sunday night. What did you think about all the buildup of that and then the game itself as he returns and gets the victory, albeit a tough one that he had to earn?
Hey, man, so I actually watched a little bit of that game. My son had it on, and Brady is what he did in New England is spectacular. I think 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 wins or whatever it may be. So you look at what he's done for the organization, for the city. It's just been it's been spectacular. So it was going to be tough being able to step into that crowd and to be able to play. Obviously he's playing against his former coach, and they know some things that he, is good at, some things he's not good at. I thought defensively they did a really good job. The corners, I don't know what they were doing most of the time, but for the most part, they played a really good game. I thought offensively for the New England Patriots, they played really well. So it was a good game. I was actually surprised with the way that Tampa offense and defense was doing, was going. But obviously we got to look at it. The injuries with Tampa Bay, they're facing a lot of injuries in that secondary. And I thought Mac Jones, Jones, I think it's Mac Jones, did a really good job as far as he picked on Sherman the entire time. Sherman is not a man corner, and he took advantage of that. I thought his OC, they did a good job game planning, knowing that Sherman was going to play, and Jones came out. Just dispersed the ball to his receivers, and they answered. And so this is going to be a good team. I thought they made a good decision with getting rid of the the quarterback name is. They had I forget the guy,
Cam.
but to put Mac Jones, Cam Newton. So getting rid of Cam Newton, putting Mac Jones in, allowing, if they're going to mess up, if they're going to struggle this year, they want to mess up struggling with a quarterback that can throw the football and throw him in the fire, let him learn. And this kid is going to be really good in this system. So it's exciting to see what New England is going to be able to do for the rest of this year. But Tampa Bay, the grit, just the balls, the accuracy, the athleticism, offensively, defensively, it's just really good. They're a good football team.
Getting some wisdom for Bernard Pollard. So Bernard, you've been in many locker rooms, many weeks, and in a league that has a salary cap and has the parity, there's always that game that you lose to a team that you don't feel like you should lose to. So give me the feeling and your approach as a leader to try to get back on the horse after you have a loss like the Titans had to the Jets, where you're sitting there going, you know what, we didn't have this guy, that guy, but, man, we got to figure out how to beat the Jets. You can't lose games like that. It feels like the world is ending, but there's still a long way to go in the season.
It's definitely you definitely have a long season ahead of you, but I think when you lose a game like that in overtime, when your kicker can't make the kick. I've lost the conference championship game. Billy Condit missing the kick. But obviously that was, in the playoffs, one game out of the Super Bowl. But I think when you look at this Titans football team, they're fighting, they're scrapping, they're trying to find their way. You got a couple guys missing on offense, but you're still in the game. And I think, when it's all said and done, you have to look at it and say, our guys that were supposed to, that stepped up, that filled in, they did a good job for us. They gave us a chance to win. We put ourselves in a good position to win a football game. It doesn't matter. I look at it and I say it doesn't matter if it was against the Jets or if it was against the Buccaneers. I look at it and I say any team can win any game on any Sunday. And I truly believe that. This is a National Football League. Their guys get paid as well. They are spectacular elite athletes that's doing what less than 1% of the world can do as well. So, they may not be a really good team, but they do have really good individuals that can put some things together. And so you just look at the Jets, and that's what the Jets did against the Titans. And so, I just think the Titans got to, I don't know what it's been the last few years with kickers, man, but they're going to have to get some, they're going to have to get a guy that they can trust or guys going to have to make plays so that they don't put it in the hands of the kicker because, man, that freaking sucks to lose a game like that. And it's going to happen. But, you just got to get back on the horse and grind this week and get ready for next Sunday.
BP, you talked about earlier the hard hits that you had in your career, but what do you think about the evolution of the position you played at safety, since you've been out of the league since 2014, like how it's changed so much since then?
Well, it's changed big time. You look at the safety position, as I said earlier, they've taken the aggression out of defensive players. You can't hit I think I watched, my son had on Red Zone as well, and the linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals, he came in and hit Matthew Stafford literally with his hands and pushed him down, and it was an interception on the play, but they called roughing the passer. And I mean, it's just different plays like that because they want these guys. They want points on the board. They want offensive players to go and showboat and all this other stuff. You look at a lot of the other penalties where they're saying, taunting, all this other stuff. A guy spiked the ball yesterday, I think it was, on the sideline, Waller. He spiked the ball on the sideline and was looking straight ahead, wasn't looking at nobody else. Now, I kind of understand the spiking the ball because the refs got to get the ball. So you got to make that call according to that call. Don't say he was taunting. He wasn't taunting. If anything, it was a delay of game because the ref had to go get the ball that he spiked. So I just think, just the rule changes, the aggression, with the taking aggression out of defensive players, it's just so different. You're telling a cornerback and a safety that he can't go in and go low on a pulling lineman. They want those guys to go head up with these linemen. That's a collision that they're not going to win. So if anything, that's going against player safety. Let's even the playing field and allow DBs to be able to cut O-linemen. Don't just say you can't cut them, but you want them to go sit there and go head up with them. So we're talking safety, but then we're talking stupidity at the same time. I just don't like the fact that, when you look at the NFL, and I played in this, you guys have watched it for so long, the guys that are making the rules have never played. These guys at the rule committee, they're not playing. And so when you change the game like this for former players and guys that have played the game and people that are watching, they're not dumb. We see what's going on, and it's just not good football. And sometimes that comes back to bite your team in the butt because you're looking like, okay, the stupid freaking rule that changed, our guys couldn't do anything.
That's a good point, and it makes me appreciate, Bernard, the defensive players who still flourish, given the rules the way they are right now. It is so set up for the offense to do well. I'm sure you would agree.
Exactly. It's set up for the offense to do well, and it just sucks because offensive players are pushing off. I was looking at, I think it was yesterday, whenever it was. You're looking at all of these shifts, and guys are literally running towards the line of scrimmage and then moving off. And they're saying, okay, well, that's a shift or that's a motion. No, it's not. You're trying to get the defense to jump off sides. Like, that's cheating. Like, so it's so weird for me to watch all of this, and I'm just looking like, this is crazy. So they lucky I ain't playing no more because I would have tried to slap every sucker running and everything. and I'd have took some players out the game because we'd have figured this thing out real quick.
Bernard Pollard here with us. BP, appreciate the time as always. Congrats on your Talladega victory on iRacing. I enjoyed the victory video. That was awesome. So you're having some fun.
I'm having a blast, man. Thank you guys for having me. I'm about to jump on here in a little bit on the road and practice a little bit. So hope to see you on soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, BP.
All right, see you guys.
Bernard Pollard, former NFL safety, of course, Titans safety, Ravens safety as well. Spent a long time in the league. Always enjoy his perspective here on the show. We'll have much more coming. Willie's got a topic that he's going to throw at us when we come back. But first, he's going to tell you about loans.
I am going to tell you about Loan Pronto, and then when we come back, I'm going to hit Darren and Chase with an observation I had about the overtime format in the Titans-Jets game and how it would have been different under some different circumstances.
You don't hit as hard as BP, so that's good.
No, I didn't claim that I did I?
Yeah, no. You just said you're going to hit us. So
I'm going to. Yeah, so I won't hit you hard, but it'll be a mentally challenging question, though. It's going to spark great debate.
Glad
I believe. Yes, so
goodness.
it's a different type of impact. Okay.
I would love to touch on the taunting he brought up too from last night. Just saying. Just touch on it.
Okay. Very different subject. So we have a lot of segments left in the show, so this is all going to come out in the wash here. But let me tell you about Loan Pronto in the meantime. Loan Pronto has the ability right now for you with a streamlined process, all digital now, to refinance your house in about 2 weeks, give or take a day or two. That is such a great thing to think about these days because back in the day, and I've done it many times, the refinancing of your home could take a long, long time. A lot of paperwork, all of that stuff, appraisals and things like that. It just takes a lot of time. Loan Pronto has really done a great job to try to streamline this process for you. And with mortgage rates the way that they are, if your mortgage rate starts with a 3 right now, you need to call Loan Pronto right now at 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780. Check out what they've got in terms of being able to give you the zero-cost refi. Not only have they streamlined the process with an all-digital outlook, they also can give you no closing costs. It's going to save you money. It's going to knock off hundreds of dollars a month on your mortgage payment, and then you get to skip the next couple of house payments when you work with Loan Pronto as well. So in the short term, you're really going to get a bump with your monthly budget. You got to love it. LoanPronto.com or 615-499-5780. Ask about the zero-cost refi. Equal housing lender.
NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans eligible for zero-cost option.
That's how it ended in New York. We'll get into that in just a moment. Don't forget to join us in partnering with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Light the Night. Light the Night brings light to the darkness of cancer through hope, research, and support for patients and families. Through this inspirational nationwide movement, what we want to do is raise awareness and funding for groundbreaking research and treatment options to eliminate cancer. Nashville's Light the Night will be virtual and take place on November 4th, about a month away. Learn more at lightthenight.org/TN. Willie, the floor is yours.
All right. You heard the missed field goal. And so it got me thinking, and I heard Bob Costas go on a rant on his new show on HBO, which is really kind of a new old show. He's back doing what he has done really well in the past on different channels, HBO, NBC, but he's just great interviewer, and at the end he has sort of a a read off of the screen where he just kind of makes a case for something, and he talked about the overtime format being way off base in the NFL. And it dawns on me with this. Why is it 10 minutes in this overtime? With the format, as flawed as it is, we could debate all day on, whether each team should be guaranteed with the ball, which was Costas' point. He said, you really shouldn't have a season come down to a deal. If you're going to say each team should get the ball, what's this whole thing with the touchdown as opposed to the field goal? That's set aside for a second. Why did they make it 10 minutes if they want to have each team with the ball? What happened in the game on Sunday was the Jets come down, have a fairly long drive, get the field goal. The Titans did a good job just to keep them out of the end zone. They're 1 yard away from losing on third down, and Zach Wilson makes a rookie mistake. Instead of throwing the ball out of the end zone on 3rd and 1 from the 1, they could have just tossed it out of bounds and then maybe gone for the game-winning play on 4th and 1. That would have been a big dramatic thing, but instead he gets run out of bounds at the 5 to kick the field goal. So the Titans at least get the ball. But what happened was, number one, they had to burn a timeout because they needed to stop the momentum. They only get 2.
Mm-hmm.
So as they get moving down the field, and as we know, Titans offense right now, without some of the weapons, they're moving 10 yards at a time. They were forced to kind of start hurrying up. They ran out of time. And they had to burn the timeout. But my question is, okay, let's just say arbitrarily that it's like it used to be. If that were a 15-minute overtime, that would have been a completely different drive coming down the field, where they could have, in theory, they could have just kept going 10 yards at a time, maybe get an easier field goal to tie, or get a win by scoring a touchdown. So why 10 minutes in the overtime? It number one, it increases the chances of a tie, which you really don't want, right? You don't want games ending in a tie, but there are more ties than there have been in a long time because time runs out. So why should that happen? They only got the ball once, and they had to basically go into a 2-minute drill at the end of the game. So the format played a big role in how that game ended. And I'm not trying to make excuses for the Titans or anything. I just wonder, I've thought this for a while. The 10 minutes is not a good thing in the overtime. Why is it 10?
So,
the
why not
league
just have 15?
will tell you it's player safety. That's what they'll tell you.
But why not? They used to do it for years for 15 minutes.
But they'll tell you it's player safety.
But it doesn't make sense to me. 10 minutes makes no sense.
I didn't say I agree with it. I'm telling you that's what the league's going to tell you. It's player safety.
So 2017 is when they put the 10-minute rule in. How many ties do you think have taken place since then?
Oh, I mean,
quite a few.
Probably one a year.
It seems like one a season.
Yeah.
On an average, right?
That would be the average. Yeah, there have been 4.
Yeah.
September 9th, 2018, Steelers-Browns tied at 21. And then a week later, that same year, the Vikings-Packers tied at 29. There wasn't another one until the following season. Detroit and Arizona tied at 27. And then in 2020.
That was like opening day, wasn't it?
Yeah, they're all in September.
Yeah.
Which is funny. And 3 of the 4 are early September. This last one, which was last year, was Eagles-Bengals, September 27th, 2020.
But if you're getting the ball only one time guaranteed, why should you have to worry about the clock? Like, in theory, what if a team ran the ball all the way down the field, just went 10 yards at a time, ate the clock, kicked a field goal with 30 seconds left? That could theoretically happen, where the other team, they get the ball, but they only get it for 30 seconds?
Yeah.
There's something – I just think you could go 15 minutes and solve that problem a lot easier. Well, a regular quarter is 15 minutes.
Who's going to disagree? But it's like I said, the league is going to tell you it's about player safety, and nobody is going to. Fans are going to be like whatever. Media will be like whatever. But that's what they agreed upon. It's about player safety.
I don't understand the player safety though. 5 extra minutes when you're trying to be fair, you've put this elaborate thing in there. If it takes the referee about 45 seconds to spit it all out with the coin toss.
Sure,
they've got it all memorized here. It's like the flight attendant on the plane talking about the exits at the beginning and the end, and the oxygen mask is going to come down. All of those things. It's like the referee has to put out that whole spiel It's like, okay, we know what it is. It's really weird how they've come up with this system. I guess it's better than it was before, where you could just get the ball, get down and kick a field goal, and it's over. Yeah. So I like that they're trying to be more fair.
They put that rule in 2012,
yeah,
where you had to, like, if you kicked a field goal on your first possession, then the other team got a chance. And when they instituted that rule, so from 2012 to 2016, there were 5 ties in that range.
Okay,
but so
it's flawed no matter what you do, because how many examples have we seen where the team didn't even get the ball back because the other team went down and scored a touchdown? Tom Brady did it, Mahomes did it, and everybody screams from the mountaintops, well, Aaron Rodgers didn't even get a chance, right?
Yeah.
And so it's flawed no matter what you want to throw out there. It's going to be flawed.
But would you rather just think about how different the Titans' drive would have been had they not had to hurry? Because you could argue that they screwed it up, and it's on them for screwing up. The delay of game was a killer. The last play they ran was a killer, where they can't protect the quarterback. He's got to just heave it just to not take the sack and put him almost out of field goal range. So they goofed that up. But it would have been completely different if it was a 15-minute overtime like it was for decades with the same format. Like, they could have, again, kept Derrick Henry in there. They could have run the ball. I think they would have won the game. I don't know that the Jets would have stopped them if they didn't have to hurry. Now, I can't say that for sure, but I think their percentages go way, way up.
So several people on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, are saying that they believe it's to keep TV time where it needs to be, and I do agree with that.
Oh yeah,
I think that's
part of it. That's a big part of it.
So I think the networks,
NFL is very calculated in their window of time.
Sure. Well, and I think the networks have probably said, hey, I mean, CBS, like, all kidding aside, 60 Minutes is one of their most popular programs, and so they want 60 Minutes to start as close to on time as possible before the Sunday night game on NBC.
That's I think how they arrived at it.
Right.
I think
Would you rather go to the college rule where you just at the 20, maybe get a possession at the 35, like you start at the 35, and each team gets a chance in the first possession, and then you can change it however you want, and just get rid of kickoffs? Or would you like to see them modify the current rule where you get a normal possession? If the first team scores and the other team gets a chance, even if it's a touchdown, they both get a shot, and then you go to sudden death within a 15-minute quarter, or like what? I don't really know what you do to fix it. I've thought about, do you go to kicks, which I know is gimmicky, but that's like the shootout in hockey. But you get rid of ties if you do it that way, and you can do it in a way that, like if you play the 10-minute overtime, like if you keep the 10-minute overtime, and then you go to kicks. Like you start at the 35 and back it up. You could do that.
Yeah, that'll never happen in the NFL ever.
Probably not.
Never.
But, I mean, if you want to get rid of ties, that's probably the best way to do it.
Oh, I understand, but I'm saying it will never happen, ever. There's no way you're going to convince the players to, blood and guts out on the field for 60 minutes or whatever. Are you talking about doing this like that is your overtime and then have it decided by the leg of a kicker?
No, you basically do it like you did – like the NHL did, where they have an overtime period, and it's 5-minute 3-on-3 is what it is now. But even after the lockout, they did a 5-minute 4-on-4, and then if it's still tied after that, then you go to penalty shots or the shootout. I mean, you could.
Yeah, I just think to convince players to bash each other's heads in for 65, 70 minutes, and then have it decided by a kicker, I don't know how you're going to get everybody on board.
Well, I mean, how did you get the NHL players on board with a shootout? I think
because the same they didn't want to play 3 overtime games on a Tuesday night in middle of November in an 82-game season.
We're right, but they also had ties.
When you got done at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just all about what's a priority and what do you want to get rid of. I mean, you guys know I hate ties. Ties should not exist in sports, period. Well, in soccer, in football, it doesn't matter.
That's to me, I have seen it happen in a number of games, even if it doesn't end in a tie, where the fact that it's 10 minutes does put people in a rush, even on their first possession. It's one thing if they punt a couple of times back and forth and they run out of time, then that's kind of on them. It just sort of happened. But you're supposed to be trying to create a deal where each team gets the ball. Of course, you don't guarantee that because if the first team scores a touchdown, it's over. That was Bob
Or a
Costas'
safety.
big thing, was in the Super Bowl where the Patriots, the big headline is they made the comeback. But the overtime rules, the Falcons never got the ball in overtime. They never got it. They never had a chance. And so he thinks that that's wrong, that part of the rule, especially in the postseason. So that's another discussion, is should it be different in the postseason?
I think we've
in
already
the regular
had
season.
that argument on Sports Talk Radio for a good while, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't we already do all that after the Super Bowl? I thought we had already. I mean, once again, it's like I don't know who's going to disagree with that, but I mean, it's not up to all of us. It's up to the league. I mean, who really opposes that? I mean, everybody thinks that, especially
they don't
in a
oppose it that
playoff-
much if they haven't changed it. In the
Well,
Super
I'm
Bowl,
talking about fans and media. I mean, if you watch the Super Bowl or a playoff game, like who doesn't think like the other team doesn't deserve the opportunity to try to match what just happened? I mean, I don't know what would be your logic behind that. Who would come out and say, yeah, that's just what it is? I mean, that's fair.
So everybody making the rules is illogical, and all of us makes sense to all of us?
You just heard Bernard Pollard. Did he agree with the rules?
I mean, no. He didn't.
I think he just called out a lot of the rules. Lord knows I've been calling out the taunting rule.
This was kind of the
year.
tone. This was kind of the tone of Bob Costas. He was like, "Well, they're not listening to me." He said, "I gave this same argument when I was with NBC 3 or 4 years ago, and nobody listened to me then. And since then, you've had a Super Bowl end where a team doesn't get the ball." Peyton Manning. He pointed out many great quarterbacks that have been eliminated from the postseason in overtime without ever getting the ball.
Yeah.
And so that's always been a thing. But this is another slice of it that I saw on Sunday where it dawns on me, you're trying to create this equity. You're trying to give this – the Titans did their job in not giving up a touchdown. It was close. It was 1 yard. So they earned the chance to get the ball, but they get the ball and they have to hurry and they run out of time. Whereas, the Jets didn't have to worry about that. So that's a screwed up thing where the team that wins the coin toss, again, has a big advantage where it's just not equitable.
Or you could get a stop and get off the field and get the ball quicker. You could do that.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
you're just like but what about the Jets who marched down the field and there was a defense out there trying to stop them.
But the Titans marched down the field.
Right,
Yeah.
but I mean, they could have stopped them and got the ball.
Yes, they could have. And that's always the case. That was the argument all those years when all you had to do was go down and kick a field goal on the first possession.
Yeah, I don't think the league is interested in equitable. They're just interested in
Getting the game over with.
getting the game over. Right, that's exactly right.
There's too much riding on the coin toss, in my opinion, in overtime. And that's just a complete luck of the draw. And that's, again, where I was thinking, okay, they've won 6 straight overtime games. Sometimes you're a little bit unlucky. They lost the coin toss. They didn't get the ball. And they sort of ran out of time. And are there 7, 8, 9, 10 things you could list of things they could have done better in that overtime to win it? Sure. But they still were the odds were stacked against them a little bit just by losing the coin toss.
So what if you did it this way? You just say that you're basically taking a piece of the college rule, but you're getting rid of kickoffs, which is another thing that's player safe. They like to say is player safety and getting hurt on kickoffs. And you just treat it like a touchback. So you get it at the 25 to start the drive. And it's untimed, you go down, you score, and then the other team gets a chance just like in college. But then you go to, if both teams score, whatever it is, you say you can't kick a field goal. It's not an option. You got to get to the end zone. I mean, there are ways to do it. It's just, how far? What's more important? Both teams getting a possession or eliminating ties?
That's a good question because there is no easy alternative that somebody's come up with that's perfect.
Right.
But I just think that I've seen a lot of overtime games where if it were 15 minutes, I think you would feel much better about the whole.
I agree.
About the whole thing. It was 15 for a long time. Every quarter that's ever been played has been 15 minutes, except for overtime.
And they had this modified rule of field goal. You can kick that on the first possession, but then the other team gets a chance and all that stuff.
I mean, do something like baseball's done with a man on second to start extra innings. I mean, start at the 50. I don't know. I mean, just
Okay.
do something like that. I mean,
So
that's,
what if
each
that's
team's guaranteed
That's
a
equivalent
possession
to
from the
starting
50
with
to
the
start?
runner at second. You start at the 50-yard line. I don't know if
Are you talking about like right away, or
and
are
then
you
if
talking about
nobody scores from that, then you get it from the 40. That you're 40,
Okay.
not, you know.
So you're kind of taking what I said, like the college rule, and basically you're starting. You have a starting position, but then you're moving it closer.
You go. You
Each
just
time,
say
yeah.
you move it up 10 yards and you start at the 40. I mean,
The stats,
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
I mean,
the stats can get weird if you go to double, triple overtime, as we've seen in college games, and that might be part of it.
Well,
that you
they've
have to be
changed the
thinking
rule
about.
again, which I like. You know, they're making you go for 2 more, and I think you certainly could do that.
Yeah, you'll cut down on longer OTs with that.
Mm-hmm. I just think it needs more work.
Sure.
With that.
Somebody asked on the text
It's
line, and I
a
don't know
what
this.
if question as much as anything, but the Titans, by burning the one of their 2 timeouts and getting the ball with little time and then sort of being a methodical type of team, they got themselves in a situation where they had to really hurry on the last drive on their first drive of overtime. And it would have been completely different if it was a 15-minute
Well, you
overtime.
think so, but you don't know that. I just is it flawed? Of course it's flawed. It's been flawed. It was way flawed before the Jets-Titans. I'm not willing to jump on this because it just happened to the Titans, and now it's like, oh, now we feel like it would have been different if the rule. It's like, I mean, there were a lot of things the Titans could have done that never been in that spot.
I said that going in,
To
and
never
you love
even
it.
be in that spot.
And you love it when it goes your way. And the Titans had won the last 6 games that they had been in overtime. So the overtime format certainly is working for them. I'm pointing out that it's a flawed system, and I guess the answer is there's no perfect way to do it. But I think there's a better way to do it.
So do you like what college football put in this year? And let me just read it real quick. It's
For overtime?
It's the traditional for the first possession. It's you get it at the 25, and you score, you kick, all that. Everything's normal. Starting with the second overtime, you must go for 2.
Yeah, I mean that's all they've done is it used to be the third overtime.
Well, no, they've done something different. Starting with the third overtime, it's just 2-point conversions. They just alternate 2-point conversions. There's no possession. There's no full offensive possession.
Oh, has that happened this year?
Yeah,
has.
Well, I don't know if it has.
I haven't
think it's
seen a
gone that
game,
far.
but I haven't
But
seen a game
that's
that
the
I've
rule.
watched. Yeah, I like that.
That's the rule, and I'm not opposed to that.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Now
If
you
all-
could
if all else
say
fails,
in the NFL
to avoid a tie.
So they just go from then on out. You just go for 2.
Correct. You put it at the
consecutive 2-point
2-yard
conversions.
line or whatever.
I don't think there's been a 3 overtime game this year.
I don't think it's gone that far either. But so for the NFL, for instance, if you did that rule, maybe instead of the 25, you say the 50, like Darren was saying, for at least the first possession, and then you could move it up and
Move it
have
up
to
10
go
yards.
Move it up 10 yards and have to go for 2, and then you could say you get it at the 5, and you gotta try and get it in.
That avoids the dilemma of stats get crazy. You know, a guy throws 8 touchdown passes just because they played 5 overtimes, and you know maybe he threw 3 during the game and then 5 in the overtime. Yeah, because it does skew a regular what we expect of stats because the stats count.
We'll have Tim Hasselbeck. We can ask
him about that
at high noon. When we come back, we'll close out hour number 2. By the way, Sportsline has their odds out. They just released in the last 20, 30 minutes. Who will be the first NFL coach to be fired or leave their job? Think about that. Ponder
I'm curious
that.
on this.
There's a list. There's a list of 7 coaches. So be thinking about that to close out the second hour. As you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Don't forget to support Stars. That'll be Saturday, October 16th by running, walking, or boogieing. The Nashville Striders' 21st annual Shelby Bottoms Boogie 15K and 5K run/walk at Shelby Bottoms Park. The event is perfect for the avid runner as well as the casual jogger. You can show your support and participate virtually. For more information, visit starsnashville.org. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, presented by Coration CBD. Products curated for life. Sportsline has the odds out. Who will be the first NFL coach fired / or to leave his job? Who is the leader in the clubhouse at -200?
And those context clues right there tell you everything you need to know.
Who will be the first NFL coach to be fired or leave his job? Urban Meyer has been. This is the match game. Chase has revealed his answer. Willie, what did you write down?
I have to go with Urban Meyer.
Indeed, it is the Urban Cowboy. Urban
By the
Meyer.
way, I don't know where you found that, but that's fantastic.
It's pretty funny. That's out there. It's circulating. Urban Meyer -200 is the leader in the clubhouse. Who's second?
I would have said Matt Nagy, but that may have cooled off a little bit.
Couple wins, right?
Yeah.
Against some bad teams.
I know it's only 1 year, but is Dan Campbell?
No.
Dan
Come on.
Campbell?
No way.
He's
Willie,
crazy.
Willie says no
I
way.
say no way.
What's your answer? Willie?
Oh, I thought you were asking.
Well, no. Chase has said Dan Campbell. I'm going to wait. What's your answer?
I'm going to say Mike Tomlin.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Dan Campbell, there's a list of 7 coaches, and he is not on that list. Mike Tomlin is 6th at plus 1,500, and he's not going to get fired. It's not happening. There's no way. No chance. They can put Mike Tomlin on the list. There's no chance he's gone at the end of the year.
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge.
That's a good one.
Mr. Body Language. Poor body language. Which, thank you for the victory and silly underdogs. Coach Judge, he is 4th, plus 700.
Mike Zimmer.
Mike Zimmer is 3rd at plus 500. And I think that would be a mistake by the Vikings.
Yeah, I
think Mike Zimmer's a good coach. I think
they don't have a quarterback.
I think he is a lot like Dusty Baker. He's underappreciated.
So we've named how many of the
Urban Meyer 1, Zimmer 3, Judge 4, Tomlin 6. So you need 2, 7, and 5. 2, 7, and 5.
Cully in Houston.
I don't think so. He just got out there.
I know.
Can't be.
Nope.
I would have said Zach Taylor, but they're off to a pretty good start.
I think some of these. Here's my hint. I think some of these coaches on this list are. If you bet on that, you're wasting your money. You might as well just give.
Is Vrabel on the list?
Is Kingsbury still on there?
Give your money to me instead of just throwing it out the window, because you're just tossing money out the window. It's not happening.
Is Vrabel on the list?
Vrabel is not on the list.
Okay, well, you said Nagy wasn't on it anymore?
I didn't say anything.
Okay, so Nagy is on it.
Matt Nagy's 2. Like, I can't
still
believe we're still your guy. Your guy.
I mean,
see, I thought you guessed him before.
Well, I said
he did. He just was like, I would have said it before, but not now. And so, I mean, 2 wins over 2 crappy teams. He's all of a sudden off the list? No, he's on the list. He's number 2, plus 200.
And so we need
the other one,
more?
I guess,
5
would be
and 7 are stupid. They're just dumb.
Brian Flores.
Was Frank Reich one? He shouldn't
What'd
be.
you say, Chase?
Flores.
Yeah, he's 5. He's not getting fired. It's not. Brian Flores is not getting fired.
Brian Flores, come on.
It's not happening. It's not happening. Same with Tomlin. That's a waste of money. Not happening.
Well, Tomlin, just when you're there, as long as a guy's been there, although the one thing you would say is the Steelers don't operate that way.
No.
But
I don't think
in a certain city, in a certain time, if you've been there for a long time and it's just you feel like it's stale and it's maybe been a certain level and it goes down a level.
If he leaves,
a lot of times that's a knee-jerk reaction.
Season. What level is it down? He's never had a losing season.
They look like they're down a level.
Well, they're about to go into they're going to go into a rebuild. I mean,
so the first time that happens, you think they're going to fire him? The Steelers?
No,
no, I don't. I didn't say I thought he was going to get fired.
Think he'd leave on his own.
But you just said some of these are so stupid.
They've had like 3 coaches in 60 years.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. He's on the list, though. That's why I said dumb. Because odds makers, they want to take people's money, and people will throw their money out there.
Dumb. Frank Reich is 7.
That's what I said. I said Frank Reich.
He's not. It's not happening.
He's not getting fired.
No,
he's a good
not
coach.
Fired.
They're going to be very much in this division race before it's all over.
Flores, Tomlin, and Reich is just that's dumb.
Jeff says Mike McCarthy. Yeah, they're 3-1. He's good right now.
Yeah, he is, but he's still a meathead. His clock management skills are awful. They
awful. Always have been.
No, they're awful. Like he is a complete failure as a head coach with clock management skills. And how does it not gotten any better over the years? How has he not gotten any better with it?
Along those lines, do we think the Chargers have graduated out of that label?
Well,
with their new coaching staff?
Look at their coach.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
You think it was an Anthony Lynn problem, or do you think it was a Chargers problem?
Well,
they did sort of goof up.
A good hire.
They did sort of goof up the one game that they lost. They could have easily won that game.
Cowboys.
Yeah, they outplayed the Cowboys in a lot of ways in that game.
By the way,
but
they
look good. They look good.
Are perfect on the season going for 4th downs.
Wow.
How about that?
That certainly helps.
I'm curious of how this list changes because, I mean, that's what's fun to keep up with because I mean, like I said, Matt Nagy is probably going to stay on it. I think ultimately that's what's going to end up happening. Pace 2.
I just don't get into these lists. I don't like that. I know it's out there. People will bet on these things.
Fun to talk about.
Yeah. Speaking of last night too, just when you talk about the 4th downs, a guy that caught a big one last night was Jared Cook. He had a really good game.
Yep.
Jared Cook is he like 47 years old? Remember, he was drafted by the Titans way back.
Yep,
he
still
can do it.
Yep.
He can still have big games. How about that?
Jared Cook is my age. He's 34.
I feel like he's been in the league for 20 years.
Yes. Wow. I remember when the summer that he was picked, I remember Jeff Fisher was so excited. He was like, man, we got this guy. People cannot cover this guy. And to a large degree, that's been true.
Yeah.
2009.
He has carved out a really interesting niche. And he's such a dilemma for fantasy owners because we had him last year. He has great games, and then he has games where he's just not in the game playing very much.
Hence why he changes teams every year.
Mm-hmm. But he's a good
specialist. He's only played for 6 teams. It feels like more.
I love that, Chase. He's only played for 6 teams.
I thought you were being sarcastic.
It feels like more.
Oh, my apologies. He's only played for 6 teams.
Titans, St. Louis Rams, Packers,
as we talk about
Raiders,
how good
Saints,
he is.
Chargers.
He's only played for 6 teams. And boy, isn't he good.
But he does the same thing for every team.
He does. Yep. He does. Cookie.
He makes big plays.
Tim Hasselbeck to start the 3rd hour. That's next.
sexy, huh?
Lots of things to get into with Tim Hasselbeck. We are ready, more than ready. Tim, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Better than Urban Meyer. Better than the Urban Cowboy down in Jacksonville. It's not good. Not good. How do you think ultimately this is going to play out? By the way, that's the next opponent up for the Titans down in Jacksonville.
You know, I saw his statement the other day, and I think there's probably a lot to be critical about. One thing he did say that I think was accurate was that, like, actually is a distraction. I mean, you've had meetings canceled. You've had probably a lot of people having to respond to it. You've had a coach that's kind of been, embroiled in a controversy situation, however you would want to describe it, heading into a game week. Like that's not good. Now, it doesn't necessarily dictate a win or a loss for that team or the opponent or whatever, but it also is, it has created a massive, massive distraction when, many teams are trying to focus on, the task at hand every week, which is preparing for an opponent and trying to get ready to play well against that opponent.
Mike Silver's been covering the league for a long time. He tweeted out, the Urban Meyer situation in Jacksonville has reached a crisis point, especially in the locker room. One player told me he has zero credibility in that stadium, and he had very little to begin with. So this sounds to me, if that's true, and like I said, Mike Silver's been covering the league for a long time. If that is true, that sounds like there was already a problem well before the incident this weekend. True?
Well, I would say this, and you make the point about Silver. Silver has been covering.
Hello? Did we lose Tim?
Did you lose me?
Okay, there you go. You're back.
You got me?
Yep.
Come back? What I was going to say is, Silver has, Silver's not like some hot take reporter, right? Now, he's had kind of big, juicy stories in the past, but, I think that his track record speaks for itself in terms of, he's not dreaming this up. And so, look, does this come from, just this situation, or is it come from, things prior to that? My guess would be that there's probably been some things prior to this that have made players skeptical, or maybe not trust them. And this is bad. I mean, I'll just give you an example of his comment the other day. Like when he brings up Trevor in his bachelor party, right? Like, any NFL locker room I've been in the past would be like, what? Like, hold up a second. Like, what did you just drag me into your mess for? Like, that would have been the reaction.
Yeah.
From anyone. And guys would have been furious about it.
Yep.
That to me was really, really weird. And I think that's the kind of thing that the entire locker room looks at and is like, wait a second. What did you just do? Like, did you really? Like, did that really just happen? Like, I was stunned by it, and I would think that was a reaction that was similar in that locker room.
Tim, that is a great point. Thanks for bringing that up. That slipped our – all this talk we've had today, and you're right, I also thought about that too and forgot to bring that up. So thanks for doing that. That is a good point. So, ultimately, how do you think this is going to affect this season for the Jags and for him? Like, how is this going to play out? Is it going to be they're going to start winning games and it's all forgotten, or the more they lose, the more this gets magnified and the more awkward it gets? Like, how do you think it plays out?
I think the more they lose, the more it gets magnified. And I think this, you don't always have to like your coach, but I think you have to respect them. And I would think that there's been a lot of respect lost for whatever reason, but whether it's, the video, the response to the video, all of those things, the bringing somebody else into it, all of those different things, I think, start to change, maybe how or accelerate, how somebody feels about, their coach. And so I think that, again, you don't have to like your coach, but I think you have to have a respect for him, and I think you have to feel like, hey, this guy's doing everything he can to put me in a position to do really well. And he would have my back if I wasn't. And I'm not getting the sense that that environment exists down there. And so, I think when you lose, this stuff ends up getting magnified, and then little things that probably aren't a big deal become a big deal. And I think that's what happens.
All right, let's play a little game called True or False and Why. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
True or false, the Arizona Cardinals will be the best team in the NFC at the end of the regular season.
When you say best team, you mean have the best record?
Best record, yep, best record.
I'm going to say false. I don't feel great about it, but the reason I would say is this: like, I think that they are a team that I still want to see their ability to like win ugly. Like when things aren't just super, super great, and they're kind of on a roll and playing with momentum. Like, I want to see them win the ugly game, because I still think, like, no matter how well you're playing at the beginning of the year, you're going to run through some lulls during a season because it's such a marathon. And, I want to see them win the 13-7 game where, they offensively just in a little bit of a rut.
Okay. True or false? The AFC is caught up with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, I'll say true, because I think there are teams. Well, Kansas City could be. I mean, they could have 2 more losses. I mean, like they which is crazy, but I mean, they've played close games. Like, and we've seen people run the football on them, and I think that if you're able to do that, I think it creates a really interesting environment. Now, they're still really, really good. I mean, look how creative they are when they get into the red zone. I mean, they do a lot of things really well. But, I think for sure, I think there are teams that can play with them.
Don't you think the defense is starting to scare? I mean, the defense looks very shaky, does it not? It's not really about Mahomes and the offense. It's about their defense has
they
slipped.
have to stop turning it over, right?
Well,
like,
true. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, it's totally their defense. Look at them offensively. I mean, they check every box offensively. They have the play caller. They have the quarterback. They kind of have the design. They have the personnel. Like, they were so good on offense. Now, turnovers have hurt them, and then defensively, people have been running it on them. And that's kind of been the deal in the past, too. But it's just been hard for people to keep running it on them when the offense is scoring so much. So, look, that's the Achilles heel for Kansas City.
True or false? Ben Roethlisberger will be under center and the starting quarterback for Pittsburgh in Week 17.
True.
So you think they're going all season with this?
I do. I don't think they feel differently about, their other option. Here's what I think about that situation there. He still gives them the best chance to win. The supporting cast needs to be a little bit better.
Okay.
I just look. I've seen Ben. Like, not like he's been perfect, but he's made a lot of plays still this year. So. Look, you go to Week 1, he's a really nice job Week 1. And even some of the plays this last week in a close game, I think there are plays where it's like, I mean, could Juju Smith-Schuster, like, could he pick up the ball a little sooner, make that catch? Like, I think he can. Can Ben make a better throw? Like, yeah, I think he can. Like, I feel like they're close on some stuff. And then, I've banked on this, and maybe I get this wrong, but I think Kevin Colbert, their GM, is as good as anybody in the business. And I think his track record would support that. And I'm kind of trusting that what he's decided to do with that offensive line eventually is going to work. And listen, maybe it won't. Maybe he gets it wrong. But I kind of feel like, he has a pretty good shot of figuring it out.
Okay, last one. True or false? The Tennessee Titans win the AFC South.
True. And you want the why? The division
is
struggling.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good way to put it, Tim.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty logical. I mean, you could have said true by default.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Dallas looks like they're going to win that division. Like, is
Right.
Dallas amazing? I mean, they're probably pretty good. But the rest of the division is not. And so, look, that's all right. I mean, look, you'd rather that than, be a double-digit win team and have to go in as a wild card.
Yeah, to me, it looks like Dallas and Green Bay could just run away with their divisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and every team I was ever on, the number one goal, the first thing you said was like, listen, guys, the first thing we need to do is win our division. First thing we need to do. And, look, you can't control the rest of your division. And so, look, by doing that, by winning your division, you really set yourself up for, some potential postseason success. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Talking to Tim Hasselbeck. Tim, we had this debate last hour, and I wanted to ask you, is 10 minutes the right amount of time for overtime? And hear me out on this. I don't know what the rule is. Theoretically, if I win the toss, my team wins the toss, I keep the ball. I have a ball control offense. We steadily go down the field. We get stopped on the 1-yard line, and I kick a field goal, and the clock expires. It's not a likely scenario, but it could happen.
Right.
Do you get the ball? The 10 minutes is over.
No.
So that's the rule.
You don't get the ball.
So they don't even say that before they toss the coin because it's unlikely to happen. But you see what I'm saying? So I hold you to a field goal, but I might only get a minute left. Now the Titans got 4.5 minutes, but they were very rushed at the end of the game to scramble at the end to get the field goal, and a lot of it was their own fault. But you see what I'm saying? Like, if I get my one possession, you get your one possession. Should the time really come up that quick? Like, there's a lot of games where the 10 minutes really comes into play at the end. There.
Yeah, right. I mean, the argument there is, well, like, if your defense can't get off the field, like, and you're going to let a team sustain, a nearly 10-minute drive, like, then you probably don't deserve to win the football game. Like that's the devil's advocate, argument there. Look, I don't know for a fact. My sense is this on the overtime situation, as the NFL has pushed for more regular season games, and it essentially be something that they were going to do no matter what the NFLPA, how the NFLPA wanted to fight it. They were going to get it through. And in an effort to kind of be, at least seem like a good negotiating partner that cared about player health and safety, is you find other things that you can say, are concessions in that negotiation. Time in the off season spent, amount of times you can hit during training camp, overtime rules, we're not going to play. We're not going to make somebody play 110 snaps in a football game, stuff like that. Like, does the NFL really care about any of those things? No, because it doesn't affect their bottom line at all. But there are things that at least can be described to the players as, okay, we're playing 17 games this year, but hey, like, we got these things worked out too to kind of, minimize the effect of playing an extra game.
When you evaluate the Titans at this point, and I'm sure you were in a lot of locker rooms. I asked this question to Bernard Pollard last hour. You feel like you're a good team and you're supposed to beat the bad teams. The Jets have been a bad team, although they got a lot of new blood I was thinking they were going to play better. It's kind of like they picked the worst week to play the Jets because they finally started looking like a team. They breathed a little life into them. But what's fair? Because you know that the reaction in the town is, how could you possibly lose to the Jets, even without A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, etc. But it's kind of an illustration of the NFL. There's one of these every week, it seems like. So what's the right mindset coming in after you lose a game like that?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Was it last year? I think it was last year against Cincinnati. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Oh, yeah. Last year they lost to Cincinnati.
Yeah, and you're like, what just happened? Like, what did we just do? Right? You know, like the kind of thing. I mean, the mindset is like, you know, it's a little bit of a wake-up call. And when you watch the film, like, there's going to be bad stuff on film where, you know, you get, like, you don't win your matchup, you know, against a guy that, like, you should, you know, or you make a mistake. And so, you know, the mindset, you know, in some ways it's easy for a coach because you come in and you're like, guys, like, you actually don't need me to tell you, like, this isn't good enough. So, yeah, I mean, that's the mindset. And, you know, I think in some ways it's embarrassing. You know, sometimes, like, you get beat by somebody that's a good player. You know, guys are like, look, you know, they're pros too. Like, they win some, you win some, like that type of thing. But like, when you see Zach Wilson get into the groove that he got into later in that game, like, he looked like he got comfortable and started to feel it. And it's like, ooh, like, that's not a good sign based on the fact that, like, we haven't seen that all year from him. So, yeah, like, those, like it happens. You're right, it happens every week. I think the thing that jumps out to me, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but, like, the thing that jumps out to me watching Tennessee, you know, there are a lot of games going on as I'm watching, you know, all the games and stuff. I feel like every week this year, there's been a play where I see Ryan Tannehill running backwards for the football. Like, whether it was a snap over his head or he wasn't ready for, or, you know, he gets hit in the pocket and the ball, you know, is squirting out backwards and everyone's scrambling to get it. Like, there are these like awful negative plays. And they're just deflating to a team. They're deflating to an offense. You get off schedule. You force to punt. It's a field position issue. The defense is wondering what's going on. Like, to me, I feel like for whatever reason, like, in so far this season, like, I don't know how many of there have been, but it seems like there's at least one a game.
Talking to Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst. So with Tannehill, I was going to ask you about him. Do you see a regression, or do you see a guy that's behind an offensive line that's not playing well, and he had his two best receivers out, and he just doesn't have the chemistry yet with Todd Downing like he had with Arthur Smith? How would you answer that?
Yeah, I don't think it's the quarterback. I mean, I really don't. I think, like, let's just be fair. Like, you know, the opener, they did a horrible job protecting him. Like, I don't care who you are. If you're not going to protect your quarterback, like, he doesn't have a shot. And so that's been an issue. You know, the receiver situation's been bad. Like, look, without the top two receivers and with kind of the, you know, the current personnel, you know, at tight end, like, tell me, like, who are the guys that, like, you look around, you'd be like, yeah, those guys would be starting everywhere else in the league.
Right.
Like, they're just not, there aren't, you know, like, they don't have that. And then, yeah, I think when you know, so play caller, you know, I think you've got to acknowledge that. And then, you know, from that standpoint, you know, what, you know, you get to the play caller and you go, all right, well, you know, what are we doing now, you know, that's different? And, you know, and how are we dealing with, you know, the current personnel that we have healthy and ready to go? So, yeah, to me, they're a team that, truthfully, I think with how they have played in general, I think they're actually pretty fortunate to be where they are now based on kind of the up and down that we've seen from them, you know, already just through a few weeks.
Tim, the story Sunday night, of course, was Brady's return to Foxborough and going up against Belichick for the first time. But I walked away from that game being impressed with Mac Jones, even though they lost.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he looked – that was a growing-up game for him, and he looked like he belonged. How about you?
You know, it's not the story, but I mean, it would have been had Nick Folk made the kick. But Brady really struggled. You know, ESPN charts this stuff. Brady had 10 inaccurate throws in the first half. 10.
Yeah.
You know, he barely completed over 50% of his passes. He really struggled, and that was the story, right? Is like, you know, hey, Brady going back there and stuff. But Mac Jones, in that, you know, bad weather conditions, they had -1. New England had -1 rushing yards. So to play the way he played, like, he put that team on his shoulders. So I thought he was excellent. You know, and I think that he's doing it with not a great supporting cast in New England. Like, his receivers, you know, we're just talking about the Titans receivers and stuff. I don't think they have a guy at receiver, and like I think there's a chance you could make the case actually that they have the worst receivers in the NFL. Now they've had good backs, and obviously they've, you know, like they had Jonnu Smith. We're all familiar with him, you know, from his time here. But like, I think they might have the worst receivers. Like, if you were to just take the tight ends and the running backs out of it, like, who has a worse receiver group than New England?
I don't really have a good answer for that.
It's pretty bad,
right?
They got good tight ends, but receivers, yeah.
Well, Jonnu Smith hasn't exactly lit it up.
No.
Did you see who the Titans had out there on Sunday?
Well, I know, but those are the backups. But like, well, what I'm saying is, as starters, like, you know,
they don't have
Kendrick
Edelman
Bourne,
and Welker.
It's not fair. Kendrick Bourne's a pretty good player, but like, you know,
Jacoby Myers
and N'Keal Harry.
Yeah,
like, I mean, I don't know where else those guys are starters.
Jets didn't exactly look like. I mean, Corey Davis is a good receiver, but I mean, it's not like they've got the who's who. Running on the field either.
No, and that's but again, like, and so listen, maybe we can find another team where you go, yeah, okay, you know, I'd take those guys, but like, look, they're bottom 5.
Yeah.
You know, versus, you know, think who Brady is out there with. You know, Brady's out there with Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans. I mean, he's got all kinds of. I mean, he's got 3 guys that you know, in some ways could be a number 1.
No doubt. Tim, good stuff as always. Appreciate the visit. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good. See you guys.
Thanks,
right,
Timmy.
We'll see you. Tim Hasselbeck joins us every week on the program. Always good to catch up with him. Always good.
Yeah, no doubt. BFF.
We don't have okay. Just want to make sure. We don't have
the screeners.
Yeah, we don't have the screeners. So
yeah,
doing a little multitasking. All right, we'll come back. More on the other side. By the way, Clark Lee to begin the final hour. Mitch Slight. So we'll get into some college football discussions in the final hour of the program. We'll come back. More NFL stuff here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
But first, I'm going to tell you how you can win $200 in free bets. It's very simple. All you have to do is sign up today at BetMGM and enjoy the thrill of victory on your very first bet. The King of Sportsbooks welcomes you to Showtime with a special offer on the baseball playoffs. All you have to do is place a $10 moneyline wager on any playoff team, and if either team hits a home run in that game, you'll win $200 in free bets, regardless of your bet's outcome. Just use the bonus code 1025GAME200 when you make your first bet to take advantage of this offer. Enjoy the playoffs like never before with BetMGM's live betting options, boosted odds specials, and daily promotions at your fingertips for every game. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com. Use that code 1025GAME200 to win $200 in free bets if a home run is hit in the game you wager on. Nothing beats a W at BetMGM. New customer offer, paid in free bets. You must be 21 years or older, must be in Tennessee. Visit BetMGM.com for a full list of terms and conditions. For gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Us at 102.5 The Game are giving you a chance to win Predators tickets during the month of October. This is what you need to do. Just post a picture of your radio dial set on 102.5 The Game. We had some great pictures yesterday sent in with people's radio dial. I think it's funny that we have radio dial, but we got a lot of great pictures. Keep them coming, whether it's digital or an actual dial where it's set on 102.5 The Game. And put it on social media, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Tag the game and use the hashtag TicketDash. I've been seeing a lot of you doing that. Keep those coming in, and you will be instantly qualified to win tickets. Show us your dash, brought to you by Social Furniture. Shop local, shop social. Remember, use that hashtag TicketDash. We had some great pictures.
I loved what we got yesterday. Number one, Elijah, well done. That was good.
You're walking on air.
I am walking on air. And two, one thing that I love that play-by-play, like radio play-by-play people do, Pete does this, Mike Keith does it. It's kind of an old school thing, but at the start of a game, if in football especially, going left to right on your radio dial. I don't know if people even understand that anymore, but I think that's just – I've always thought that was just a cool phrase to work in there to kind of give you the visual.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
So
I like it.
I mean, it doesn't really work anymore because
it's
there's not a dial.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of sayings like that are sort of outdated, but you still know exactly what the person's talking about.
Well, according to the pictures yesterday, people do know what a radio dial is, and they could be listening on a radio dial because we got great pictures of that yesterday. So, by the way, thank you for listening to the show on the radio dial set at 102.5. By the way, the Predators' final road preseason game is tonight in Raleigh. They take on the Hurricanes. 6 o'clock puck drop. I'll have pregame for you at 5:30. Everything heard right here on this radio dial of 102.5 The Game. We'll get into more of that in just a bit. By the way, I was noticing this last night. And we saw this when they were in their temporary home. Now they're in their new home. Don't you feel a little bit bad for the Chargers? Like isn't that embarrassing? Like we made fun of them when they did their home games in the soccer stadium and every game was taken over by the opposition's fans. Now they're in their new home, the new digs, and I know they share it with the Rams. And it seems to me like the Rams are much more welcome in Los Angeles than the Chargers. But I even tweeted out last night, okay, it looks like a new game in Las Vegas. We got a game now in Las Vegas. I don't know if anybody got the reference.
Yeah, I know what you I know.
I mean, there were Raiders fans everywhere. Like, when big plays would happen for the Raiders, it was loud, like it was a home game. It was unbelievable.
Well, it's a 3-hour drive from Vegas to L.A. or 4. It's close. And I'm sure some people flew from Oakland because they still have – some fans there. But I mean, and here's the interesting part about all this. Remember, originally the original proposal was it was going to be the Raiders going back to Los Angeles and they were going to share with the Rams, and that got overruled, and it ended up working out better in my opinion for Vegas, or for the Raiders, because then they moved to Vegas and they get that that beautiful stadium there and have their own deal. This is going to be tough for the Chargers because it's always going to be like this. Their fan base is not there.
You have to hope it grows over time.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's going to.
I know. So have they made a huge mistake?
I don't know if it's because it didn't work before. I know times have changed, and I know they were always going to try and get two teams back there, but I feel like it's a Rams town.
But San Diego isn't that far away.
No, but
it's an easy drive.
But it's not an easy drive.
But
why is it an easy drive?
Traffic.
Okay, but it's a beautiful drive.
Sure, but
beautiful
with traffic.
Yeah.
What, a couple of hours?
Yeah,
you should have to. Okay, did people in Nashville drive to Memphis?
Right,
because it's a pretty drive.
Well, it's not a pretty drive. It's a boring.
Wait a minute,
drive.
you just compared the drive from Nashville to Memphis.
It's a freeway.
As the same as
on a
LA
highway.
to San Diego.
Yeah, but
you're on a highway
going down the coast.
You don't go down the coast unless you take the train.
Yeah.
Well, the drive when I made it was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, the people live there. They see this all the time. If you're relying on there's a lot of bitter fans that are mad that they left. So you lose.
Was that what I'm getting at? Like nobody from San Diego's going up to the game?
I don't think they are.
But it was the city that did it. I mean, they didn't want to build a new stadium.
They're out.
So the Chargers didn't have a choice. I mean, it wasn't an ideal situation for them, but they didn't have a choice. Like, it was either you keep playing at the old dump that you were at, or you move to LA and share a stadium with the Rams. I mean, I don't think they really had much of a choice. I don't think they wanted to move out of California. I don't think they wanted to go to San Antonio or somewhere else to move their team. I think the Raiders looked into all of that, but it just is what it is. So unless the city of San Diego comes around and says, you know what, we missed the Chargers, we're going to build a new stadium and bring them back, which I think
that never happens though. They never leave and then come back. Oh, wait a minute, that's happened multiple times. Yeah.
So I mean, and I don't think that is a crazy scenario. And if the city of San Diego said they were going to do that, the Chargers would be on. I mean, they would move overnight. Like they would go back overnight.
Do you think?
I do.
No, I think it's too late now. They're in that new stadium. I think they didn't have. It's not like they had this love and great support in San Diego to start with. Really?
Yeah, they did.
They did for.
Yeah, they did.
They did for
on.
like LT. Okay. Even before
it wasn't
that
for
Fouts,
lack of attendance.
It was just a dumpy stadium.
Well, it was an old stadium. I mean, I've been there. It's just old. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's just right off the interstate. There's nothing around it. It's an exit.
Is it next to is Petco close to it or
no?
They moved. Okay.
No, Petco's downtown, the heart of downtown San Diego. No, it's literally an exit off the interstate in the middle. There's nothing around it. It was just what? How old was it? 50 years old?
Yeah. Well, it's still there.
It's old. Is it still up?
I think so. I think they still play a bowl game there.
Do they really? Yeah, you're
the Poinsettia Bowl.
Yeah.
Is that still around? Still kicking?
Qualcomm or whatever. It's San Diego Stadium now, but it was.
Look, we know LA's a phony market. So if the Chargers become really, really good and Justin Herbert continues to shine and it becomes a star in the NFL, they're phony. They'll jump on board, right? They may not be on board now, but if the Chargers are really good and Herbert's fun and he's a franchise quarterback, they'll come. They will, because they love a winner in LA.
It'll take time, but they'll do it. They'll build it.
Well, I think of this year, if they're really, really good, that'll
help. It'll speed up the process.
They're tearing it up. Yeah. They're tearing it down.
Are they?
Yeah, they're in the process of tearing it down.
Interesting. So they are currently. It's in demo.
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Oh wow!
I missed that. That just happened this spring. They finished it.
Wow.
So it's gone.
What'd they put there? A mall?
It's a good question.
There's nothing around it. I mean, they need something there. I just felt bad for them. I'm like, geez, this is a home game. It's Monday night. It sounds like they're in Las Vegas or Oakland.
They're building a new stadium to seat 35,000 and support events including San Diego State football.
Oh wow!
So there you go.
Where does San Diego State currently play?
I don't know. I thought they played there actually.
Right. That's what I would have said. Maybe they have a
temp
campus site, little stadium maybe.
I don't know.
Do we think San Diego's a good market? I mean, it's like fan-wise.
I think it's an interesting, it's a weird market just because it's far enough from Los Angeles to be considered its own thing, but it's close enough to Los Angeles that there's too much bleed over.
They've had a hard time keeping sports there.
Yeah. I mean,
they had an NBA team.
Yeah.
They bolted.
I mean, the Padres are really
That's it.
Yeah, they're the last one. Did they ever have a hockey team?
No.
Nope.
I didn't think so.
Nope. They've lost the NBA and the NFL.
I think they've been trying to get an MLS team.
I was going to say why I'm surprised they don't.
But LA's got two. So,
yeah, crazy. Nice season by the Padres this year. Who do they play again? The first round?
Yeah, they don't.
Oh.
They play the Mets in the NIT.
Well done.
Well, who's going to manage the game for the Mets?
Yep, they're moving on.
Yeah.
For Mr. Rojas.
Uh-huh.
Great guy.
Interim? Have an interim?
Great guy, not a great manager.
Nope.
16 years in the organization doing the dirty work in the minors, instructional leagues, all that stuff. They've offered him a chance to stay in some capacity, which I think he'll end up doing. He's just not. Everybody loves him as a person. I just didn't think he was a great manager. No brainer.
As opposed to all the other successful Mets managers?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see who's up next. Maybe Dusty Baker. Maybe he can go to
I'd take him. I'd take him.
Yep.
Well, isn't he in Houston?
He is.
He is.
He's got a pretty good team.
Yeah, imagine that. They just keep winning. Dusty Baker at the helm. How's Cincinnati doing? Who do they have again? Porth? Who do they have?
David Bell.
Yeah.
By the way,
they had their best season in a while.
Oh, that's great. How many playoff games have they had since
they were in the
Dusty?
playoff last year.
They were
They
in the
have
playoffs
Cancun
last year.
this year in the playoffs.
Cancun.
All right, we'll come back. Some Titans assistants spoke today, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Pretty interesting stuff. We'll discuss that, hear it, and discuss it to close out hour number 3. That's next on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Some Titans defensive assistants spoke today to the media as they get prepared for their game against Jacksonville. Well, not really. Today is an off day, but the assistants were speaking. One of those assistants was Terrell Williams, defensive line coach, and here's what he had to say.
Do it for the sacks, do it for the stat sheet, and he does a lot of dirty work, and maybe you don't get the recognition for it. You almost have to have a little selflessness to you.
Yeah, I think so. But again, it's you can't get a sack on a run play, and he's playing the run good for us, and we all want a lot more sacks, but those opportunities will come. I will say that again, he's around the quarterback. So the more you're around the quarterback, the more opportunities you're going to have. So he's close to getting there, but he's doing what we need him to do. I don't know what everyone else perspective is on what a good number is as far as sacks, but I think he's got 1.5, and I think the leader in the NFL's got 5. So yeah, and that's an edge player. So he's doing what we need him to do.
Thank you.
John Glennon.
Hey, Coach Williams. Yeah, this might follow sort of along the lines of what Jim was asking, but wonder how much you guys value, pressuring a quarterback versus a sack, and sort of keeping with that theme. How can you change more pressures into more sacks? Is there a magical formula for that?
Yeah, it is actually. Ask the quarterback to hold the ball a little longer. I mean, that's how pressures turn into sacks. So if we can get them to hold it a little bit longer, then that's what happens. But I think we're doing a good job of rushing. We're doing a good job of covering, and we're better on third down than we were. So I'm excited about our defense and where we're headed.
Okay, Jim.
Just on this is the second week in a row, I guess, Coach, facing a rookie quarterback. What are your thoughts on Lawrence, and how do you maybe try to disrupt him and affect the QB this week?
Well, he's obviously super talented, and he's got a lot of talent around him. And I think the thing that maybe a lot of people don't realize is just how well these guys are running the football. I think they're 6th in the NFL in yards per carry. So they run the football really well, and he complements that run game with the play action and some of the RPO stuff that these guys do. So they do a really good job on offense, and he's a big part of it. He can make plays with his feet. He's smart, can make all the throws, and I see a super talented player.
Hey, Coach, what's Jeff's disruption level so far, you think?
I think he's doing a good job. I think his production is getting to where it needs to be. I think, again, I've been asked this question about 5 times now, and, the sacks. Well, I think we've played 4 games, and I think the leader in the NFL, or close to the leader, I think Chandler Jones may have 5 or 5.5, and Jeff's got 1.5 as an interior guy. And again, it's not, I think everybody looks at stats and that's how you judge disruption. But sometimes when you're taking up 2 blockers, which he does quite a bit, and another guy makes a tackle, then that's disruption. That's disruption that doesn't show up on a stat line. But if you're not looking at, if you're just looking at stats and you're picking up a book at the end of the game and not watching it from our eyes and professional trained eyes that are looking at those things, then you probably wouldn't see that.
You guys have certainly rushed better. It doesn't seem you've gotten your hands on as many passes as we've become accustomed to. Has anything changed along those fronts?
No, it hasn't changed. I think we're close. I mean, I can look at 5 or 6 plays where we're right there and the quarterback happens to get rid of the football. And so, with this program, it's about getting better every week, and that's what we're doing. So, we've played 4 games, and we're just looking to get better every week, whether that's rush the passer or tip a ball or stop the run. We're just trying to get better every week.
There you go, defensive line coach Terrell Williams. What did you guys think about what he said about Jeffrey Simmons? We've talked about him. Definitely talked about him yesterday.
I think it's a fair thing to say that it's not always in the stats. It is what a guy's being asked to do and how a team is trying to go against him. He is drawing double teams a lot. I think that's fair. And at the same time, I still think everybody's looking for more games, more plays where he jumps out to people like us who aren't studying the film. Right? I think he said what I would expect his position coach to say, is defending him and saying it's not like he's lining up against the weakest part of the offense and just has great matchups every week. The other team knows that he's the guy that is probably the most talented guy along the front, and they've got to handle him, especially when a guy like Bud Dupree is out and 2 other guys who are outside edge rushers are out. As good as Harold Landry is, I don't think he's a guy you scheme against. I do think you scheme against Jeffrey Simmons. So he's having a little more trouble. But great players have that happen and still show up to guys like us. So I think there's a little bit of middle ground here where, yes, we understand that he has it tough, but also if he's a true game breaker, like everybody in this town hopes he will be, then he should be making more plays.
Yeah,
I think it's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I do
because
too.
Albert Haynesworth and Aaron Donald, those guys at that position, they draw a lot of attention.
They're drawing double teams,
and so they still found ways to stand out, right?
But I think maybe to Willie's point, we've talked about Harold Landry and the season he's had. I mean, that you can probably give a little bit of credit to the fact that they are having to shut down Simmons, and that's therefore opening up some plays for Harold Landry. Now you add Bud Dupree back to the mix, healthy and effective. Autry continues to develop and fit in this system. You get some of the other guys back, then it's kind of like, at least on paper, the same problem that you hopefully will have on offense, where you have to scheme against Henry, you have to scheme against Jones, you have to scheme against AJ. You're hoping that you have to do that on the defensive side as well. But when exactly is that going to happen?
When are they going to get Bud Dupree back?
I don't know.
When is he going to be a viable option for this team?
I'm scared there was a setback. I'm scared he came back too quick from the ACL. I mean, you can make the same argument with Lawan, but
Jeffrey Simmons, how long did it take? His was in February, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he missed half the season and then played the second half of the season. I mean, Bud Dupree's was in October or November of last year.
I think it was late October.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
Jeffrey Simmons was in
different for everybody.
I don't think you can really compare.
I'm just saying. I mean, that's golly.
I mean,
but once again, expectations could not have been higher because they paid so much money for him.
Yep.
But the book was, even before he got hurt, he was benefiting from being on a defensive front that was very active and had T.J. Watt and some other. It's not like T.J. Watt was the only other guy. Yeah, they have a good defense. So this isn't the same defense. So now he's not 100%, and he's the focal point of their pass rush. He's being defensed a little different. We've seen it so many times. It wasn't super – you were being a little optimistic if you thought he was just going to come in and be Javon Curse. But that's the expectation when you get paid like that. So I feel for him a little bit because I'm sure part of him was like, I got to show everybody. I got to get back. I got to be in there. They need me. They're paying me. I got to be in there. It's like Carson Wentz playing on the 2 bad ankles against the Titans. It may not have been the most sound decision, but I understand when you're in those shoes, you want to get out there. You want to show what you can do. But the problem is you're not yourself. I don't think he's been himself yet on the field.
Yeah. Harold Landry was the MVP on Sunday on defense. There's no doubt about it. Clearly the MVP on defense. I think what was really concerning is when you listen to Tim Hasselbeck earlier this hour, and I agree with him, but there's a reason why a rookie quarterback was gaining confidence throughout the course of that game. I mean, when you see a rookie quarterback who has looked really uncomfortable all season long, and their offense has been very inept through the first 3 games, and he's all of a sudden out there scrambling around and pointing for players where they need to go and, hey, go there and I'm going to throw it here, like that from a rookie quarterback into week 4, that is concerning because you know what that means? He wasn't scared of what the Titans were doing to him at all. He was gaining I agree with Tim's assessment. He was gaining confidence throughout the course of the game because they weren't doing anything for him to lose his confidence.
Yeah.
That's concerning.
Yep.
And I also want to see in context because I think now let's take the first week. The shocking nature of the Cardinals blowing the Titans away, and you're going, what happened? But the Cardinals have parlayed that. They're sitting there at 4-0. So in retrospect, you're like, hey, the Cardinals have made something out of this. I do want to see, because it's my theory, I don't think the Jets are as awful as they've been. Now, that's not saying much when they've been as inept, but I'm thinking they're going to win a few more games here.
Yep.
I think they'll be much more competitive.
Well, we'll see. We'll come back. We'll head over to West End. Big win for Vanderbilt over UConn on Saturday. We'll talk to their head coach, Clark Lee. That's next here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Time for the final hour of Darren, Daunic, and Chase here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Willie Daunic, Chase McCabe here in the studio. Darren McFarland will join us in a moment. It's time for our weekly chat with Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lea. He'll be followed by Mitch Light from The Athletic. We'll talk college football in general with him in our next segment. It's something we do every Tuesday at this time.
Light after Lee.
Light after Lee. So Clark Lea joins us, and what do I need to hit, Chase? Am I doing? I don't want to cut Coach Lea off because I have a great story for him to start it off. So, Coach, here's the scenario. I'm at the Predators game on Saturday night, doing my duties there, even though I'm not announcing the game, but I'm watching your game on the computer. Then I've got to, after the Predators game's over, I've got to go to a function with my wife, which I'm late for, because I've got to know what happens at the end of the Vanderbilt UConn game. So I have the stream on my phone, and I'm watching as best I can, trying not to get into a car wreck in downtown because it's a little, it's Saturday night downtown. There's a lot going on. So I'm maneuvering my way around, and I turn on Lee Avenue, LEA, to get to Rocket Town where this charity event is going on, and the stream goes out because I don't know why. Like I guess there's a Wi-Fi thing or something. And I've got to figure as the field because they called all the timeouts, and so it takes forever for the ball to actually kick. So I'm scrambling. I turn the radio on, and I miss the kick. And I only am hearing the aftermath, and I'm hearing the band play and the sound, and I'm like, did we make it? I think we made it. And so I thought it was fitting that I was on Lee Avenue as all of this drama was going down. But congratulations on the win.
Yeah, thanks. A couple of things. I think any sport fan has had those moments, and so I can relate to that with the streaming. The other thing is, obviously there was a lot that went into that victory. I had no idea that you played a part too, and just the way you navigated through your event. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your efforts in that as well.
Yes, when I saw I could turn on Lee Avenue, I was like, something's right about this. I need to stay on this until after this kick.
That's right. That's great, man.
Well, it was fun. It was a game that certainly was not lacking in twists and turns and craziness. I'm sure from the sideline, you had probably some heartburn going on there, but it's great to be able to get the great ending like that.
I think it's an important part of our journey, honestly, and I don't mean to frame everything over based off the long-term perspective, but we knew this was going to be a fight. We just, that's just where we are, and we're winning's hard, and we have to learn how to win. And I think, I don't know, in my time, obviously playing for and supporting this program, I think that there are plenty of those games that have ended with that final touchdown from UConn as kind of the nail in the coffin, and just the total confidence there from our offense to take the ball down and convert on a 4th and 4, and then Joe to nail it in the end. I mean, I think that's just an important building block for us. And the more we learn to win through those various twists and turns, as you say, I think that's just maturity and growth as a program that will ultimately kind of deliver us to the results we know we're capable of as we continue to build.
A couple of specifics like that. I think you hit on a couple, but I also thought that the 2-point conversions, to be able to get stops after you give up plays you don't like, everybody's a little bit down, that recovery to focus and stop the 2-point conversions. Of course, you just do the math. That was everything there.
Right. Yeah, it was. And as I watch those plays, I think there's still just so much more that we can do. And it's hard to express this when you're inside of it, and I'm sure people that listen will be like, well, why don't you do more then? But it's like you're building this thing. It's a big undertaking where you're trying to kind of rewire the psychology of a program. You're trying to build discipline into the program and standards of performance, standards of operation, and then you have this other behemoth, which is how we experience games, how we play as a team, our personality on the field. And so little things like, the way we adjusted those motions on the 2-point plays that set up pick routes that were a little more open than I would have liked for them to be, those are things that you experience, you teach off of, you adjust, and you become a little bit better as a program in those situations. And so certainly to get those stops, though, is huge. Also felt like, little things like the pressure we got on the field goal attempt at the start of the second half that forced a kick wide left, I thought was a great moment of effort from the defense, and obviously the fourth down stop too. So, there's little things in there where you see the character of this team starting to be revealed, and now we need to build on that with a great effort in Gainesville this weekend.
Coach, one thing I'm seeing a lot in really the college game and the pro game, and it came into play a lot in your game, is when you have the isolation of wide receiver versus defensive back. It looks like to me it's just so hard for the defensive back to make the play. You got all these really good receivers, like you have Chris Pierce, who's just is a big wide guy who, if it's one-on-one, he's so good at going up and grabbing it, and it's hard to defend him. He gets the pass interference that puts you in range for the winning field goal. And on the other side, they were making some really nice plays on the ball where your guy is right there trying to knock it out, and they were winning battles there. But it seems like there's a lot of matchups where teams are saying, I'm going to take my chances throwing it down the field because if I don't get the catch, I might get interference too.
No, it's the outcomes tip in the offensive favor there, where it's it's a completion or an interference. The two of the three are pretty good for the offensive side, but on ours, well, first of all, I think absolutely. I think the more we get comfortable, get Kenny comfortable, putting the ball up to Chris and to Shep, those two in particular who have the size to win on those 50-50 balls. I think we're going to see more success and see more explosive plays in the passing game. On our side of it, the challenge of the finish is one thing, but I think winning early in the snap has got to be the focus of the DB. So, I think when we reviewed the film and took a peek at kind of how we got out of position, I felt like our leverages and our early fundamentals, footwork, and use of hands and press put us in, not using the proper fundamentals put us in trail positions. And, it's one thing for those balls to go up and for be truly a contested 50-50 ball. It's another thing when you're behind it and trying to run to catch up. We can do more early in the down to put ourselves in better positions at the finish. And I think when you do that, you're not panicking as much as a DB. You have a little more confidence to go out and play the ball.
Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lee is here with us on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. And as you go through this building process, obviously your upperclassmen are going to be important as leaders on the team, but equally as important is basically setting the standard for the younger guys, the freshmen. And you've had quite a few that have played meaningful minutes for you. So how important is that as they come in right away and are able to make an impact as you try and rebuild this thing like you've talked about?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, what we're counting on the veteran players before even like leadership from them, we're counting on them to be willing to see this experience as different, to actually look at this program in a different light. And it's hard to do as a fourth, fifth year player. And yet we have had some guys step up and really buy into what we're getting done here. Certain among those veteran players will emerge as leaders, and I think that's kind of still being determined as we go. But we've talked a lot about kind of shedding the past and stepping into our future as a program, and how that can be painful as you experience this search for identity, and you're trying to get all the competitive systems in place. But when you talk about your freshman class, you talk about guys that don't know any different, right? So that they the only thing they know is that they're playing football, the ball's put down, and they're going really hard at it. And the more we can use them, I think the more we actively build towards that future, but they have to earn that through practice. And so, guys over time have earned the chance to be on the field. They know what they're doing. They've proven it in the workshop, so to speak. And so, as we move forward, we'll continue to look to get those guys involved, because every rep that they take is just investment in both the near future and on down the road.
How about somebody like C.J. Taylor? I know he played a fair amount at linebacker against UConn. Another freshman from Warren County. I know he's popular with the locals, but what have you seen out of him?
Well, C.J. Has quickly become a guy that I really connect with. You know, I don't know that when he first got here in the summer, it wasn't that he was necessarily had the measurements or the numbers, or there wasn't anything that really stood out about CJ. And then all of a sudden the ball was put down and snapped, and he just started flying around the field. And it was evident from the first fall camp practice all the way through his time on our scout team. This guy just loves to play football, and he has a different speed when he's pursuing the ball. He's physical on the perimeter. There's so many strengths there as a player. And so again, he's earned the right to be on that field, and we're excited for him to keep, continue to push to expand his role. We think he can be, you know, a dynamic player for us because he's just a good football player. There's something when he lines up and again, the ball's put in play that he's going to find it, and he's going to find it with an attitude and a competitive spirit that is representative of what Vanderbilt football should be. And so anxious for him to keep moving to expand his role on the team, because we think he's a reflection of what this program needs to be.
As you mentioned earlier, you have Florida this weekend. They're coming off a tough loss to Kentucky, but going down to the Swamp is never an easy task. But as you all have gone through this journey, you know, how do you feel that you're feeling about this, going down there to play this Florida team, and what are some early takeaways you have from watching film?
They're talented, you know, and Dan Mullen is a really good offensive mind, and they spread the ball out and run the quarterback, and you know, they're gonna test us that way. You know, going on the road is a challenge. Although I think, you know, we're going to be excited for that. It's a great environment to play a football game, and our guys will be keyed up for that. I thought, you know, yesterday's meetings and walkthrough had the right focus and spirit to them. You know, I'm anxious to see practice this afternoon. You know, we need to come out and build on the week that we had last week, where I felt like we had our best week of prep, and so. We're excited about the challenge. Florida's a good team, but, you know, we're interested in taking kind of the newfound formula where we have less self-inflicted wounds. We're playing a smarter brand of football, playing really competitive and hard for 4 quarters, and to take our swing at a good opponent on the road will be a lot of fun.
Talking to Clark Lee, Vanderbilt head football coach. That game is 11 a.m. against the Gators down in the Swamp coming up on Saturday. Coach, one last one for you. In more of your big picture, you talked about the freshman that Chase was asking you about. Another thing I've noticed, and I think you've talked about this some, in this day and age where you could revamp your roster in the short term with the transfer rule and things like that, you guys have chosen more of the long path development, not the quick fix. So tell me about that philosophy, because I think it would be easy for a first-year coach to say, okay, I've been a lot of places. Let's go to that transfer portal and let's just reshape everything.
Well, you know, I think there's to fill your roster with transfers, you have to purge your roster of players, and I think that you can get into a conversation about, you know, what is the right thing to do, and how do you operate with integrity. You know, this is my school. You know, it's my home. And I got a great respect for all the guys that chose to come here and that have, you know, earned the right to graduate from this university. And I want to make sure that in my first year that I stepped into this program and fully embraced where it was, and really gave guys an opportunity to change along with the program. And to me, it just felt like, you know, I didn't want this to be a short-term fix. I'm not looking to see how quickly we can win so that I can move on. Again, this is a place that I'd like to be for a long time. So for me, it was more about the foundation, wanted to lay the foundation, wanted to get it set so that we can build on it. And that's not to say that we won't, you know, use the transfer portal in the future, because I think it's a great opportunity to find, you know, a match for our culture and our environment. And it's certainly a way to enhance your depth chart and to add some experience where we don't have experience. But to me, in year one, it was less about how quickly can we flip the roster around and more about like, all right, let's step into this. Let's give people a chance to buy in and change. We know this is going to be a long road anyhow. Let's function with integrity here and do it the right way and know that both the patience and again, operating the right way will be rewarded over time. And so, we'll see how the transfer portal looks this all season, that there's a fit for us that can help us be more competitive to build the best possible team we can build. But our formula is going to be about recruiting and developing to close the talent gap. And, we want to stay true to that and not be turning our roster over every other year.
Clark, thanks a lot for joining us. As always, good luck in Gainesville on Saturday. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Y'all take care. Good to be with you. Thanks.
All right. That's Vanderbilt head football coach Clark Lee. Big win over UConn. Now conference games the rest of the way for the Commodores. And you asked me the question, Chase, off the air before we had Coach. What are the prospects now? I mean, you'd really love to get one somewhere in there. You know that they're going to be an underdog in probably, safe to say, every one of these games, maybe a sizable underdog in all of the games. Yet they don't play Alabama. They don't play some of the big dogs, right? They play good, solid SEC teams, all of which will say, we got to beat Vanderbilt. This is a game that we cannot lose. So so to answer your question, I'd like to see if they can put themselves in position to win one or two of these. I think it would mean a lot in where they feel like they are. Based on his answer, they did not take he's trying to be nice about it. I think he does want to win with integrity, but I also think he feels like he's taken the long view. He wants to develop players for 4 years at the risk of them leaving. You can fly the coop now. You can go if you do well at one level, you say, I can move up. I might be able to play at this. But I think he feels like this formula will work. When you get transfers left and right, you have a lot of guys coming in for 1 year or 2 years. But I think you're trying to sell something that is stability, development. So this is going to be something to watch as we go forward. We'll see if they can see how they hang in the SEC from here on out.
Yep.
When we come back, Mitch Light will join us, and we'll go around college football. It was such an exciting week of games last week. We'll look ahead as well to what's coming up on Saturday. Stay tuned. This is Darren, Daunic, and Chase.
Thank you, Gary. We'll talk a little Preds before we get out of here at the end of the show. Back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Light after Lee, Mitch Light from The Athletic, now joins us. Mitch, it was a statement weekend for some teams. One of those teams was Georgia. They were a big favorite over Arkansas. Arkansas had come in with that big win over A&M. They were undefeated, and Georgia just hammered them. And they become now the 5th team since 1950. That's 70 years, over 70 years. A team that has scored over 200 points and allowed 25 or less points in their first 5 games. Can you name the last team to do it before Georgia has just now added themselves to that list?
I cannot, and I know silence is not good radio, so I can sit here and think about it, but why don't you just share the news?
20 years ago, Mitch, Virginia Tech did it. And the significance, the reason I'm bringing it up is because Georgia's now the 5th team. The previous 4 teams all went on to win a national championship other than that Virginia Tech team in 2001. You had Florida State in 93. You had Alabama in 79 and Oklahoma in 1956. So let me just start there. Do you think this Georgia team is going to ultimately be the national champion?
So, but that stat, you're saying it's good when you score a ton of points
and you don't give up any points. Yes.
Okay,
the stat says you're very good.
I'm going to take some notes so I can help out with my further analysis.
Yeah.
Are they going to win? Sure. I mean, if I had to bet on a team right now,
you're taking Georgia.
I'd probably take Georgia slightly over Alabama. We saw what they've done. The competition has varied this year. The teams they've played, from Clemson, who still has a great roster, to Arkansas, who had before Saturday the best resume in the country. They weren't the best team in the country, but they had the best resume in the country, and they've just been completely dominant. And this is what we see. Like recruiting, I say this all the time, recruiting isn't everything. It means a lot. And when you have you don't miss on a lot of guys, and they're all upperclassmen at the same time, and they're all kind of playing their roles and selfless and all that, to throw out all the coaching cliche you want, this is what you get. You get a defense that's this good. And we might have talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but you look around to like Florida State, they're Georgia cast-offs on defense, playing key roles on other Power 5 teams around the country. Like guys that just weren't good enough to be featured players on this team. So, yeah. And, did anyone think when they found that JT Daniels wasn't going to play, like, that was really going to hurt Georgia? I didn't. I mean, I just have so much confidence in that defense, and they just kind of set the tone so early in that game. And, I think Jeff Schultz, our columnist here, Atlanta columnist for The Athletic, obviously longtime Atlanta sports columnist, he made the point, which is probably true, this Georgia team is great. Do they need JT Daniels to win a national championship? Yeah, probably. They need to maximize their quarterback play. They're not going to win it with Stetson Bennett or a backup quarterback, but I think they can get by without JT Daniels. So to answer your question, yeah, they're as good. They're on as good of an early season run as we've seen, in years.
Yep. Alabama also made their statement against Ole Miss. Cincinnati went into South Bend and made their statement. They beat Notre Dame. They're undefeated, and they've got Temple, UCF, Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, USF, SMU, and East Carolina. They got one ranked team the rest of the way. If Cincinnati runs the table, are they going to be the 3rd team in outside of Alabama and Georgia?
It's so hard to answer now because there's so many variables that need to. How do they look? If so far they passed every test. They got outplayed for a half against Indiana and then dominated the second half, and they looked the part against Notre Dame. If they go out and they win every game by 14, 21 points, and they run SMU off the field, that strengthens their case. If they close wins, get a lucky bounce here or there, then you got to look at the complete resume. My gun to my head, I'd say yes. If they go undefeated, they will be in the college football playoff based on the chaos that's going on. But it's so difficult. You got to. I mean, I know that's what we do. We talk about it, we speculate, but it's like you got to see the body of work before you really judge how good a team is. But I would say they're in a very good shape, very good position. Obviously this is not breaking news, but the thing that's hurt them is that Indiana has not been nearly as good as we thought, and Notre Dame hasn't played great too. They could use Notre Dame. They need Notre Dame to get on a roll, and they need SMU to stay hot. That would help their case immensely.
Yeah, and then you had Oregon with their perfect opportunity, and Pac-12 desperately would love a presence in the college football playoffs, and they go to Stanford, and they have to play catch-up the whole game, and they eventually caught up, went to overtime, and lost. So does that eliminate the Ducks? And if so, what about that last spot? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think everybody can point to Alabama and Georgia and say the SEC is getting 2 in, but I think those next 2 spots are going to be really interesting.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And I don't think it eliminates Oregon. They have right now, especially looking like Ohio State's kind of righted the ship. I always talk about this in the college basketball when you bubble talk. What do you have in your back pocket? Who has that best win among the bubble teams?
Yep.
No team. I'll say right now, I don't think any team in the country is going to have a better win than at Ohio State. If Ohio State, stays hot. So that, and we've seen teams. You got to treat every team. You got to treat teams fairly. Like we've seen, Alabama lose to Ole Miss. We've seen Ohio State lose to Iowa. The year they lost to Purdue, I don't think they got in. The years kind of blend together. But teams are allowed a mulligan as long as they've proven that they can be good. And Oregon has proven it can be good. Now they're not playing as well. And one thing I want to say about that game, anyone who wants to talk about ref conspiracies with the officials about leagues, when there's questionable calls, a lot of times it's bad officiating. Oregon had that game won. Then there was a pass interference, I think, on 4th down, and Stanford got another down, and they scored. Don't you think the Pac-12, as a league, wanted Oregon to win that game? So just throwing that out there, that struck me when I was watching that, because so many people think there's all these conspiracies with officiating. I think sometimes just they make bad calls.
How about the game in Lexington? How about Kentucky actually beating Florida after everybody was starting to feel really good about Florida? Florida has absolutely dominated them over the last 34 years, and they stumble for now only the second time in 35 years. But handed to Kentucky. I mean, they took it to them, and I'll tell you what, they had that stand at the end, and they got some penalties, and they pushed them back, and they got a nice review where his knee was down, and next thing you know, Kentucky's now undefeated, 5-0.
Yeah, the thing about Kentucky that's impressive, and Mark Stoops has always done a good job with his defense. But if you would have told me if you would have told me in late August that Kentucky's 5-0, I'd say, wow, Will Levis is probably, putting up 350 yards a game, and Liam Cohn, the new offensive coordinator, they're working their magic, and Wendell Robinson's, playing like we thought he'd be playing coming out of high school. The running backs are going wild behind that offensive line. Really not. The offense has not been as good as we thought. So I still think there's potential for offensive growth at Kentucky because they have the pieces. They've been getting it done with defense, and so that's the credit for Kentucky part. Then it's the Florida. What do you look so good, Florida? Yeah, take Alabama to the wire. You really dominate Tennessee. You look the part there. And they go up, and all the questions about Emory Jones start coming back. Maybe he's not the quarterback. And it just angers Florida fans so much because they know the potential of that program, and they just don't have the players. They don't recruit at the level that they should, and it's all great when they win, and Dan Mullen's going to out-scheme everyone. But then when they go lose to Kentucky or something like that, then now the Florida fans, rightfully so in my opinion, say, why can't we recruit, not necessarily maybe to the elite level that Georgia and Alabama, but their roster doesn't compare to those teams. So that's just the kind of a side thing that obviously credit Kentucky, but that's gotten the Florida fans riled up.
Talking to Mitch Light from The Athletic. Mitch, I noticed in The Athletic the Heisman straw poll is led by Bryce Young. Not a big surprise. My question is, with him as where he sits right now, there's always this process with a first-year Alabama quarterback. How good is he? So tell me what you think. Where does he compare with his predecessors?
Yeah, I partake in that straw poll, and this is the first week we did it this year, and it was tough. Previous years there had been some obvious candidates there, and I did not have Bryce Young. I was going to kind of go with everyone else. Young's numbers are great, but I kind of stepped back and said, okay, he's the quarterback of Alabama. He's got a great offensive line. I mean, it's the age-old, and that's kind of why you're asking the question. The argument we have every year. It's like, how good is the Alabama quarterback? How good is the Ohio State quarterback when they're outclass everyone? So I actually had Bijan Robinson from Texas 1 and Will Anderson from Alabama 2 and Kenny Pickett from Pitt 3. So Young, I mean, the buzz in the offseason was he was going to be the most dynamic, the most talented of all the Alabama quarterbacks in the Saban era. He has been very good so far. I think it's still incomplete. I mean, he wasn't stressed. Was that their biggest game so far this year, the Ole Miss game? Maybe, but he wasn't really stressed. They got such a big lead. That's kind of what I want to see out of a young quarterback. When in Ohio State's faced it to some degree with C.J. Stroud more than Alabama and Bryce Young. What can he do? Can he make the tough throws in the third quarter when it's a tight game? And I know I guess they were stressed against Florida. I should say that was definitely a bigger game there. But I mean, he's in his first year as a starter. He didn't kind of burst on the scene like Tua did. I think Bryce Young is kind of leading his Heisman straw polls more because there's really no other obvious candidates. I mean, I know he was a preseason favorite because he's the quarterback at Alabama. So I guess my answer would be incomplete. Obviously a great player, but I think we've got a lot more, good things to see from him in the future.
We just talked to Clark Lee, as you know. They get the win over UConn. Here they are, 2-3. Only conference games remaining. We were trying to assess their chances of getting a win in conference play. It doesn't sound like much, but I think it would be a nice thing. But I think we all believe they're going to be a sizable underdog pretty much every week. So give me your thoughts on their chances.
I mean, Missouri is the one that jumps off the page because of their defensive struggles. And we saw that the Tennessee game. Obviously, all the credit to Tennessee. They came out there and were confident, but Missouri looked like they hadn't scouted, a Josh Heupel offense ever, which is kind of funny since Josh Heupel used to be the offensive coordinator there. And that's Vanderbilt, despite the injury to Raymond Davis, has shown the ability to run the ball. I think they had 250. It was the Stanford game. They rushed for 250 yards. So. It's just this isn't a cop-out. You just never know. I mean, that Derek Mason's 2019 team that went 1-7 in the SEC, I think lost every league game by 17 points or more, and that they just weren't competitive. But they beat Missouri at home, and Missouri was pretty good that year. So, I mean, the answer is obviously you got to play the games. On paper, Missouri looks like the obvious one. South Carolina, I guess, would be the next one, but. South Carolina is playing better than Vanderbilt, obviously, right now, and, that'd be a tough one. So, yeah, it's just kind of you just want to kind of see it's not really all about wins and losses. It's about how do they look, do they improve, how do they fight, all those, again, all those cliches. You just want to see them be competitive as possible.
Talking to Mitch Light of The Athletic. So, speaking of South Carolina, they're in Knoxville this weekend taking on the Vols after the Vols go and just manhandle Missouri, 62-24. Last week. In what you just said about how South Carolina is playing, are you also worried that maybe Tennessee, and as they still try and go through everything, and Josh Heupel and building the new culture, that there could be a little bit of a letdown back home in Knoxville?
Yeah, I mean that's the obvious. What you're concerned about, you're feeling good about yourself, and things came just alarmingly easy. I guess that's not the right way to say it because alarming is negative connotation, but if you're Missouri, they came alarmingly easy for Tennessee. So, I mean, I think that's probably the focus in the building this week is, keeping their focus. Tennessee's not good enough to take anyone lightly. South Carolina's a team that, lost 16-10 at home to Kentucky. They are really struggling to score some points. They scored 23 against a not-so-great Troy team. They got a good running game. They really don't threaten you too much at the wide receiver position there. So, I mean, Tennessee, it's a 10, 12-point favorite, or is that about it?
10 and a half, I think, when I look.
Yeah,
yep.
I mean, that sounds about right. They're clearly the better team. They're playing better right now. But this is the type of, you want to see them take a step forward by taking care of business. Now, they're not going to run them off the field like they did in Missouri, but if they can just, like a solid, 27-14 type game, I think that'd be a nice step forward for this program. But I think kind of, Chase, what you referred to is that's got to be the message in the building. They've got to stay focused. So they won a road game, big deal. Now it's time to move on to the next one.
Well, and I know that the message from Josh Heupel and his coaches isn't going to be we're playing for 6 wins, but when you're being realistic, that's what you're trying to get to and be bowl eligible, have that extra game. And to do that, in my opinion, you have to win at home this weekend because even though Ole Miss is licking their wounds after Alabama, I think Ole Miss is the better team. They're not going to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I don't think they're going to beat Kentucky and Lexington either. They're certainly not going to beat Georgia and Knoxville, and that leaves the last 2 games out of conference and then Vanderbilt. So to stay on schedule for that, this is very important.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, you're looking at the games. Like you said, you're going to be favored. They've got 3 wins. They'll probably be favored in 3 more games. This one and the last 2, and they could lose one of the games they're favored. They could win the other ones. But yeah, that would be a nice step forward, just tangible progress going to a bowl game. So yeah, you don't want to put too much in year 1. You don't want to put too much importance on one home game. But by virtue of what they did last week, this kind of sets up South Carolina as the biggest game they've had there under Josh Heupel.
Is Hendon Hooker? He's obviously been named the starter. Is he showing you enough?
Yeah, I think so. In fact, I mean, I'm far from a quarterback expert. I liked what I saw from him at Virginia Tech. I thought when he transferred there, and then Milton, and I heard all the Milton buzz, and again, I like everyone else. I saw Milton play 2 or 3 times at Michigan, but I liked what I seen Hooker at Virginia Tech, and I like what I've seen him at Tennessee. So I don't see why he would not be the guy going forward.
Penn State at Iowa. Who wins?
Well, last week I picked Maryland. I was like, home field.
Yikes.
I was living a lie. They're winning the turnover. They can't keep winning the turnover battle. Their offense stinks.
They got shredded.
4 turnovers. Yeah, 4 turnovers. So you know what? I'm picking Penn State because Iowa can't keep winning the turnover battle. So I'm picking Penn State.
You're not a believer in the Hawkeyes.
I didn't say that. I just don't know. Yeah,
he's a believer in Jimmy Frank.
Exactly. Great game, though. Obviously, I mean, I think you've seen – I don't have it in front of me, but it's like what is it? Did you guys see the stat? The first regular season top 5 Big Ten matchup not involving Michigan or Ohio State since like 52 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I
in the
believe
early 60s. Yeah, Minnesota and someone else. So yeah, it's great to see both. I wouldn't say these programs are like newcomers. They both had. Iowa's been a consistent top 20 program, almost like the playoff in 2015, and Penn State's obviously a great program. But it's nice to see some other teams in the top 5.
Be a great atmosphere. 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon on Fox. I'm assuming that's going to be Gus, right? 3 o'clock, big game on Fox. Got to be Gus.
Usually the big noon kickoff is Fox is Gus, but the Red River Rivalry is on ESPN or ABC for the first time in years.
That's
correct. Fox.
Yep, that's correct.
I'm guessing. I don't know how they don't send their number 1.
He's not doing Maryland, Ohio State. That's the early Fox game. There's no way he's doing right. Maryland. Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah,
Penn
there's no
State.
way they're not sending them to the top 5 battle. So yeah, we'll get those guys, and that's always a good. They're a good crew. Joel Klatt does a really good job too.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, thanks for the visit as always. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, see you guys.
Mitch Light from The Athletic. Good stuff from him as always. We'll switch gears, come back, and finish up Preds in Carolina to take on the Hurricanes. They've made some roster moves, and somebody's not coming back. We'll tell you about it on the other side as you listen to Darren, Daunic, and Chase. ESPN 102.5 The Game. back here on Darren, Daunic, and Chase. Our show is presented by Creation CBD. Products curated for life. If you would like to be in the building with us Saturday afternoon at Bridgestone Arena, Predators' final preseason game against the Carolina Hurricanes, where they'll be tonight in Raleigh. So last road game is tonight. Final home preseason game is Saturday afternoon. If you would like to win tickets to that, be lucky caller 5 right now. It's 615-737-1025. 737-1025. Lucky caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to see the Preds and the Hurricanes. Good luck. That's our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Just when Elijah answers the phone, say, my caller 5, my caller 5. And maybe you'll be. Hopefully you will. Good luck. Predators have made some roster moves. So it was announced today that they had sent Matt Luff, who I got a chance to talk to in postgame, from the Patron Platinum Club Saturday evening. Really nice guy. Guy who came over from the Los Angeles Kings. I think he's going to factor into their plans. It's just not going to be right away. Cole Smith, Frederick Allard, Matt Tennyson, all sent to Milwaukee. They also did the same. They had to waive Rem Pitlick. Everybody, those guys passed through waivers. They're off to Milwaukee. But Rem Pitlick, guys, was claimed by the Minnesota Wild.
Yep.
I guess they must have watched his college games. The ex-Gopher picked up by the Minnesota Wild. So he's going to now join the Wild. So they've lost Rem Pitlick, a guy that played 10 games for him last year.
Tough. I think he's got a chance to be an NHL player. And there's always a group of players that get to this point in their career where they're just caught in a numbers game. There's been a lot that the Predators have picked off from other rosters and turned into good players on their roster, and then the vice versa. You gave a great reference, probably the biggest one they've ever been burned on. It happened during the season.
Yep.
Was Rich Peverly back in the day, who blossomed.
But they didn't. I mean, they were stuck. They didn't have a choice. I mean,
well, they had a choice. You always have a choice, but it's a tough call. They liked him, but
Steve Sullivan was coming back, so they had to clear that spot.
And also, I think at the time they had a guy named Cal O'Reilly, brother of Ryan O'Reilly, who they thought could still be a good player.
Which that was an unfortunate. Well, he got hurt. When he got hurt and broke his foot, or I forgot exactly what the injury was, that just really changed him because he showed a lot of promise.
He flashed, yeah. and that's why it's so hard with guys like Rem Pitlick, because you can say, hey, if I stay with this guy, maybe he blossoms. But right now, it was hard to make a case that he makes this team day one. And that's the only way you could do this without waiving him. So they had to risk waiving him. As Darren pointed out, he played his college hockey in Minnesota. Minnesota has got a lot of salary issues. They might have a little – every team's different. So every team's maybe got room at the one position. Now, they have to keep him on their roster.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like they have to like him enough to say he's on our team to start the year. And if they want to send him down, they've got to send him back through waivers, and maybe the Predators can get it back up. But this is that fringe 4A guy right now that it's a tough call. So I know they didn't want to lose him, but he's now on the Wild.
Yeah, he's 24 years old. I like him. He's worked hard. I mean, I know he's wanted to but he had played 10 games last year. I think he played a game the year before. He's had 11 shots. He's been in all the camps. We've seen him in training camp and preseason. And like I said, nice guy. There's just never really been anything that's really stood out to me. I mean, look, we're talking about the NHL. And like you said, I mean, 4A guys are, really good in Milwaukee. They really stand out, the next level below. But if you don't stand out in the NHL, then that's kind of a problem. And just my 2 cents, I just never thought – I kept waiting for Rem Pitlick to kind of shine when he was given opportunities. And there was never really much or any wow moments. There wasn't anything that was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Like other guys stand out. Like that's how like this whole Tanner Jeannot and Matthew Olivier, like they stood out immediately. Like Rem Pitlick has never – I mean, he's been around last couple of years, and there's never been for me like a real – it doesn't even have to be a wow moment. It's just catching my eye. And it's just like other than I keep watching him. I'm like, okay.
Yep. There's always those late bloomers, though. Your worst fear is that he keeps getting better, and then,
and going back home.
Going back up.
You never know.
That could be a double-edged sword going back home. But in the meantime, it also illustrates, I think, what's at stake tonight.
Yeah.
And so you still have on the roster Afanasiev and Philip Tomasino. You still have Jeremy Davies in this mix, who did not, in this wave of defensemen they set down, get sent down. That tells you that he is in the mix here. He's got a chance. I would expect him to be in the lineup tonight. They've announced, they put the roster out there. So I think those are 3 guys to keep your eye on tonight in kind of a battle for the last spot or 2.
Well,
and I give you guys both a lot of credit on recognizing Afanasiev early to say this guy's made a jump. He's got a legit shot. I would not have circled him on a guy that would make it this far this year. I feel down the road.
Well,
for sure he's a prospect, but right now having a chance to make the team, this is a real thing.
And I didn't think he'd have a chance to make the team out of camp. I knew that there was a lot of good things about him, and that I thought that there was a chance you'd see him at some point this year, but I didn't think it'd be this early.
I didn't call it. I just kept saying, this is my reference point. If you go back and listen to the tape, every time I kept bringing up, and I brought him up a lot last week, I said he is going to make that conversation behind closed doors very, very interesting. So it was kind of, I'm not predicting it. I'm kind of leaving, I'm leaving all kinds of wiggle room.
Well, you asked me I forgot exactly how you worded it, but if you had to pick one.
Yes, and I said, if I'm being honest, yes, and I did ask you, Chase, honestly, who's been better right now to this point, Afanasiev or Tomasino? And I said, if I'm answering it honestly, Afanasiev has been the better. He's looked better to this point.
Yeah, and I agreed with you, but then I countered with, but I still feel like that they could they want to give Tomasino every possible chance.
Igor, to me.
Yeah. Well,
one of the things you hear is it's not just the goals that he's scoring; it's the complete game. He's big. He's 6 foot 4.
Big frame, man.
Yes, and they like that. This is another reason that Pitlick was caught in the numbers game, and I think they were willing to risk losing him. Is they're trying to get bigger. Cody Glass is bigger. Phil Myers bigger. The guys they are trying to bring along here, they like the size, they like the identity, the toughness that they want to play with. Matt Luff, a guy who got waived, I think they like him, and I know, Darren, you guys got a chance to talk to him after Saturday's game. They like what he brings. He's not a flashy guy, but
he's happy to be here too. I'm telling you, he's happy to be here. Now we'll see if he gets a chance down the road. I'm sure numbers, it just plays out that way, right? People are going to go down, and he's going to get a chance. There's no doubt. But let me just say this selfishly. Chase knows this. Selfishly, all that being said about Igor Afanasiev, big body, the way he's played, just all the good on the ice, like selfishly off the ice, I also want to make he has got quite the personality, man. Yeah. I am a huge fan of his personality. We jumped in the elevator with him Saturday night at Bridgestone Arena, and he remembered us from Centennial. This is a 20-year-old kid from Russia. And I know he's been over here in the States for a while now, but he remembered. This was a brief encounter Wednesday at Centennial, and he has got a great personality. I think he is going to be a fan favorite when he cracks the lineup for good. That's just
no doubt.
I'm just putting that out there right now. He is going to become quickly a fan favorite.
So when you watch and listen to the game tonight, and the game is on TV tonight, Mace is with the Carolina broadcasters on Bally Sports. Then Trip Tracy will join Mace and I on Saturday for the finale.
Oh, cool.
But tonight, you're going to see more of a real NHL lineup. So that's why it's so big for guys like Davies, Tomasino, Afanasiev, guys who are on the bubble. I don't know that you're going to keep both Tomasino and Afanasiev on opening night. I'm not saying it's long term, I think it's good that they're both pushing. I think so too. They both have the ability to send down without waiving them. So something to watch for tonight.
Congratulations, Chris Fraker, lucky caller 5. Thanks for listening, Chris. It pays to listen to the show. We'll see you Saturday afternoon in Bridgestone Arena, Predators and Hurricanes. That will do it for our show today. Speaking of Predators, Hurricanes, Tonight I'll have pregame for you starting at 5:30 right here on these airwaves. Pete and Hal will have your call. Puck drop at 6. Have a great rest of your day. Continue to be safe. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We'll see you then.